That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect avocado for your perfect impress them on the third date guacamole? Well, good thing Instacart shoppers are as picky as you are. They find ripe avocados like it's their guac on the line. They are milk expiration date detectives. They bag eggs like the 12 precious pieces of cargo they are. So let Instacart shoppers overthink your groceries so that you can overthink what you'll wear on that third date. Download the Instacart app today to get free delivery on your first 3 orders, while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
You better not have no plans tonight.
Movie time and it's feeling right.
You're looking for a love that lasts. You'll find it at Romance in the Podcast. Ooh, baby, you had me at hello. Ooh, I love you.
I know.
Ooh, baby, you're the wind beneath my wings. Ooh, I'll have what she's having.
Ever Laughter Lappy.
After Lappy Lappy. This is the dumbest title.
They never explained it. What does it even mean?
We got to open the show. We have to open the show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Paige, please continue.
Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Pod. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
I'm Mikey Randolph.
And I'm full of rage, Todd Schlosser. And this week, Mikey made us watch
Yes.
After Ever Happy.
After Ever Happy.
And the only reason I got it right was because I was reading it. Like, this title is terrible.
Yeah, I had to look. It's because Happily Ever After is such a phrase that we all know, and this is not that.
No.
And I hate every letter of it. I hate it so much.
Afterly Ever Happy would have also been better than this title. Like,
yes,
like, this title is terrible. It doesn't even make sense. They never tie to it in the movie.
Nope.
It's just bad.
It's bad.
But so is all of the writing. So I'm not surprised that the very first writing of this was also bad.
This might be the worst movie I've ever seen.
Okay. Sorry. Loved it. I loved it. Because this
God,
is the first. No.
What?
Let me explain. I loved it,
What?
Mikey. I loved it, and you should too. And here's my point-by-point breakdown of why that is true. This is the only movie where either of them do anything to better themselves apart.
That is true.
Okay.
However,
And I was so happy that they broke up.
However, they don't. Like, they never successfully do that. This movie is 40 of the same conversation in different locations.
Yeah.
Oh my
for
God.
2 fucking hours.
This might be the quickest episode we'll ever do. It was only 90 minutes, Paige. I checked.
Oh my God, it felt like 3 days. Nothing happened in this movie. The sex scenes made me angry every time, which is never a thing sex scenes have done in a movie for me.
Paige, one of the sex scenes was shot, I'm guessing, through a disco ball. Like, I don't know what was going on in that sex scene, but this is like a weird nitpick, but if you're having sex, you're probably still not fully clothed. Like, they go to bed together in their underwear.
Yes.
And then start mimicking sex, and then it cuts to them the next morning. It's like the most PG sex scene I've ever seen in my life. It's like Hallmark sex scenes.
I'd like to come in as a neutral party here,
Please.
as a combination of both your beliefs, where I, one, think it's the worst movie ever because they do repeat the conversation for all 90 minutes.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I liked it because it was cathartic in a way to watch this toxic couple finally collapse in a way that was good.
And all it took was her dad dying and him burning down a house and her learning she possibly can't get pregnant.
He burns down a house.
He gets away with fucking arson.
His birth dad goes to jail for it. Her dad dies. He's run away to do drugs, and then that's what it took for them to move forward.
It would have taken her quoting Hemingway once to me, and I would have been gone. And this, Like, they stay with each other way past the red flags. I have one very important question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Towards the end of this movie, when Hardin is on Landon's couch and Tessa's couch,
Yeah.
and he has that nightmare, and that's what sort of brings them together in that, like,
I think he did it. I think he faked it to manipulate her.
That
yes.
was my question. Yes.
Yep.
So you're on my side then.
Oh.
Mikey, you're perhaps more likely to do this. Is this something that you think he premeditated?
No. I think he's still fucked up, but like I think he would. I just don't think it played it like that in the film. I think he's the worst.
I think based on what we find out later, yeah. First of all, yes, he's the worst.
Yes,
This
he
entire
is.
movie is that meme where it's like the most selfish person you know is talking to their therapist and being told that it's okay to be a little bit selfish.
It's my
Yes.
favorite meme.
That's this fucking movie. Because even at the end when he's like, air quotes, doing better, it's still all about him. I'm like, don't get me wrong. At points in the previous movie, she has fallen into a system where she is also toxic back to him.
I think she acknowledges that in this movie too.
She does.
Yeah.
She does acknowledge that in this movie. And she even says at multiple points, like, I don't like who I am when I'm with you. I can't be in this relationship. I gotta leave. He won't fucking let her leave. Like, in this movie, I mean, I know he has been abusive in the previous movies. We have covered it. In this movie, he crosses the Rubicon into full-on controlling, abusive stalker that will not let her go. And I was like, hey, call the cops. Like, call the cops. Like, it is time to have him escorted from every fucking premises in your life.
Yes.
Like, girl, change your identity and see if you can sue him.
She needs
like,
witness protection.
she needs witness protection. Fucking run. He's such a villain. Every single point in this movie, because this movie doesn't view him that way at all. This movie is just like, he's sad. And I'm just like, fuck you. Like, with my whole chest.
Yeah.
If you are watching this movie or listening to this episode and dating somebody at all, like Hardin, fucking run. Run.
Yes.
I don't care if their feelings get hurt. I don't care what happens to them. Fucking run.
I do love that this movie goes so far as to blame Hardin and his dad's, his not real dad.
Right.
It blames their alcoholism on Hardin's
the women
mom.
in their life?
Yeah.
The women in their
I
life?
know. It's so funny.
that!
It's so crazy. And then it has the audacity.
But really, who else is to blame, Paige?
No, fuck. And I'm like, this is clearly someone that's never done recovery work, especially in a 12-step.
yeah.
Because a huge part of it is acknowledging your part in what has happened. And no one ever does that.
Paige, he wrote a book that was such a banger that while he was at Alcoholics Anonymous, somebody was like, no, I gotta tell people about this book. It's so good. I have to tell everyone I know about this book.
And we even, at a certain, he's like, I still drink beer and wine sometimes. I'm like, what? You have made no progress.
He's California
He's
sober,
California
Paige.
sober, baby. That's what we call it.
That's not California sober. California sober is no booze and weed.
Well, and no hard drugs, yeah.
I've heard California been weed and wine.
No,
The
even
W's.
wine, not really. California sober is just weed. That is at least how we refer to it.
Well, it's not like you've ever been and or lived in California, Paige, so you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
We refer to it as, no booze, just weed. And that's California sober. But like that aside, like the way he centers her finding out that she may not be able to have children as something that hurt him, I was like,
It immediately becomes about him. Immediately. It's so crazy.
chop his fucking dick off. Like, I swear to God, like, he's the worst.
He's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm like, yeah, you obviously should not have said that.
You should have barely even thought it. Burn him at the stake. Like, I was so, at a certain point, I was like, not only should she not be with him, he could not be on this earth, and I'd be okay with it. I hate that character so much. And I feel like we owe Beautiful Disaster an apology. what this movie fucking needed was at least one underground street fight and a Sprouse to be more interesting.
But then it wouldn't be able to drive the point home that what he learned this movie is you can't punch your problems in the face.
Except that what he learned this movie is he's fine and everyone else around him is the problem.
And my best-selling book proves it.
Yeah, he wrote a book, Paige.
Yeah.
Fuck him and his shitty book.
How do you not feel bad for this man who's done one montage full of recovery work, Paige?
And his book reading, it's just all women who I'm sure think he's hot because I'm sure in his book he has painted himself as the fucking hero. And like, that's why she's so mad when she reads it.
Of course he paints himself as the hero. He thinks he's Darcy.
He's the worst. He's the fucking worst.
Because he is the hero? Why did Tessa make him do all this?
No. Oh, God. I do love that I think we got one cast, maybe two switcheroos. I couldn't quite figure it out because I think Landon's mom changed again. And then they never confirm for us that it is Robert the waiter that she is seeing in New York.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But it is.
Oh, is that who it is?
That's who it is, yeah. We did get one location Chiron in this movie.
We did.
So they must have heard us the last few episodes where we didn't know where anything was.
I do want to point out that like when it like jumps to New York and it says like 5 months later, that I think the entire after series that came before that jump in time happens in the previous 5 months before that. So they've only known each other for like 10 months at the end of this movie. And 5 months they weren't together.
It's a little bit longer because that 5 months happens and then there's like a little bit of time after.
Sure, okay.
By my count, it has been a year.
Okay.
Since we started. Basically.
I was only off by 2 months.
You were only off by like 2 months.
But yeah, like, that's insane.
But the kid, Smith, has aged conservatively a year, movie over movie.
Yeah.
Where he started as like a 4-year-old and now he's like 7.
Yeah.
And he's just like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, does he know that Hardin's his brother? And they're like, we haven't told him yet. And
we don't talk about his metabolic disorder, progeria.
Or whatever it is. Because it's completely...
At the end of this series, Smith's going to be like, I'm going to go get a job with a drill. And then it's going to be like a year later in the story. We're like, what is happening?
What is happening? In fact, my favorite is, and they did film this movie at the same time as they were filming the last one. So they
in
like
Prague,
did
I heard.
Yeah, in Prague. I was either Prague or Bulgaria.
Oh, yeah.
I only say Bulgaria because I know Beautiful Disaster was also Bulgaria and it's the same studio.
Yeah,
so it was
probably was.
Probably. But there's one scene at her dad's funeral where they like cut to the like all the people attending her dad's funeral sitting there because this movie has almost no extras. Like at all.
It's wonderful.
It's one of the few places that there are extras. And they have aggressively European haircut. Like, you can't miss it. It's like the Eurovision contest out there. It's fucking nuts. It's wild. There are points watching this where I was like, you can tell where they filmed this. But Smith seems to have grown movie to movie, even in these two that they allegedly filmed at the same time. So I don't know if they just, like, couldn't get the same kid on casting day. But like Smith looked a year and some change younger in the last movie. And then they're at the same wedding and he walks through a scene and he's like, hey mom, I'm going to go over here. And I was like, the fuck? Like,
I honestly thought they had just recast the kid.
I think they did.
Yeah.
I think they just recast him, but like too old. So it's almost like they went to the wedding and while they were busy, he walked through a time machine.
No, I think the 6-year-old was like, this is bad for my career. You got to get me out.
We gotta leave. I can't do this.
Mom, you're my agent. Get me out of this.
Todd, we are 3 for 3 on somebody scrolling Instagram on their laptop in public instead of on their phone.
I was so mad. Like, they're just doing it to fuck with me, right?
Keep doing
like, this is the dumbest shit ever.
Some people get on Instagram on their computer. Some people do.
But, Mikey, they're not near any Wi-Fi.
You don't
They're
need
not
it.
near any Wi-Fi.
I just hotspot to my phone. It's fine.
But that's ridiculous because then you've got your fucking phone.
I know,
Why don't they
babe.
let people just look at their phones? What is their version?
You don't have to yell my own rage back at me. Like,
sorry.
I get it. I was the one that brought it up in the first place.
I gotta be careful. I'll end up in another rage nap. I gotta keep it even keel. But like, yeah, I'm like, they have people look at their phone for text messages. Like, what do they do with phones or something that they won't let people look at it on their phone? There has to be a reason. If it's like tough to do, I don't know.
No, I wonder if it's like in Bulgaria, that's what everybody does. I don't know.
I don't
it's
think
insane.
so.
Yeah,
Why would anybody do that? Anyway,
That can't be true.
it's a nitpicky thing, but it's like so dumb that like to feature it in 3 movies is crazy. Maybe they just shot all those shots on one day and weren't like, fuck, we did it on a laptop. And they were like, well, we don't have time to reshoot them, so they're in the movie.
Except that Todd, okay, it happens on the one that's not in Bulgaria because it happens in the second one.
I know.
Then it happened again in the third one, and then it happened in Beautiful Disaster, which is not even the same storyline.
It's pretty much the same story. This is like if someone wrote fanfic of Tess and Hardin
I guess.
and one of them fought. But yeah.
I think this is one guy at the top of that production company who like really believes that Instagram is better on a computer experience and not.
It is
Yeah,
not.
but they're like, we're forcing this. You want my production money? You have to show Instagram on a laptop.
It's the eccentric millionaire who owns the company but is pretty hands-off creatively, has one note.
Has one
and he will
note.
pull funding if you do not abide by it.
It's like that guy that wanted that giant spider in a movie, and that's how it ends up in Wild Wild West.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in one of the Supermans that never got made or
Yes.
something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, man.
Ugh.
This movie is so insane, even her gynecologist said it was inconceivable. Like, that is where it is for me.
I love that.
And I like couldn't handle it. It was so crazy over the top that I like couldn't help but lean in a little bit.
Can I tell you one of my favorite parts that had me like, because I watched late at night and had to keep stopping it because I was so angry. And so it took me a lot longer to watch it.
Okay.
And so I had to be quiet because Jake was already asleep. But there's a scene where she's going through her like memories, and a bunch of them were things that didn't fucking happen. Like, we never saw it. They definitely filmed B-roll and then are using it as memories. Except there's one that very clearly they recycled footage from the first movie because it's the old apartment. But it's in the middle of her standing in the new apartment with all the memories. It's different walls, different layout. It is impossible for it to be the same place. And they just feel like you're not going to notice. And I'm like, old apartment, old apartment. Like, I couldn't stop screaming about it. I lost my mind.
I'm shocked to hear someone with a true crime podcast say that, her memory should be 100% accurate. I think what happened is she just doesn't remember the apartment correctly.
No, and
because
it's
it is
so
she's like
funny.
dreaming about it.
Yes, but like, did you see it too where it's like
Yes.
glaringly
Yes.
obvious?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was hysterical.
This is the set before they moved the production to Bulgaria.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
When we get started, I can't wait to highlight one of the most tasteless music choices in a movie score ever. There's so many things like that in this movie where you're just like, who in their right mind?
This one definitely felt like the one where they just gave up.
Oh, yes. Where they were like, I guess we got to film all these scenes, and it's just them talking. Like, this script must be all dialogue.
Yeah.
No action lines. I can't tell you how many times I have given brutal script notes to be like, something has to happen. Like, people can't just talk the whole movie. This isn't Dinner with Andre. Like, come on.
That's a great reference. I don't know if you meant to do this, Paige, but he's the guy who says inconceivable in Princess Bride, which was like the punchline of my joke a second ago. So like, well done on that.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Dinner with Andre.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. I thought you meant the gynecologist. I was like,
No,
that gynecologist is not Wallace Shawn.
No. Yeah, but that's him. That's the guy who screams
Yeah,
inconceivable
of
throughout.
course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I was like, well done.
Leave him. Like, if you are with this man or know this man, blink twice if you need help. Leave him. Promise it's better without him.
Mikey, I think I have to agree with you on the whole, they clearly just gave up in this movie because the very beginning of this movie, it picks up at the reception of the wedding we were at, right?
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
And they are like, instead of ducking away to a quiet room to like shout about his mother's infidelity the night before, like they're just at that reception
On the dance
talking
floor.
about it on the dance floor. It is insane.
The first 10 minutes of this movie are so insane that I was like, oh, this is going to be fucking good. And then nothing fucking happened for another 80 minutes. And at one point in my notes, I just have, there's 10 minutes of plot in this movie and 90 minutes of talking about those 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating and exhausting.
But that's what therapy is like.
I mean,
And that's what he goes to in this movie.
yeah, I wish someone went to actual therapy
Well, I
in
mean-
this movie.
Oh, not me.
They do sort of play it off in that montage at the end that he's been going to at least group therapy for 5 months, where he read a banger of a story that they just could not let go of.
Could not stop listening. Well, and here's the thing. I'm not trying to say group therapy is not real therapy. That's not what I'm saying at all.
You're saying a 2-minute montage of therapy is not therapy, and I get that.
That's all you need.
I'm saying this movie does not understand therapy in general, but specifically the type of therapy that he should probably be involved in, which probably would involve group, but it would probably be like, he would probably see like a therapist and have group.
Yeah, we don't ever see him with a private therapist, but I agree.
Never. Especially if you are like, if you're going hard at therapy to resolve substance abuse issues, not only do you typically have some sort of group, either a 12-step or just group therapy, to talk with others about resolving the addiction portion, you also, it is recommended by most doctors, go to a different therapist to talk about the underlying trauma that is likely contributing to your addiction.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole ecosystem of stuff.
And he's clearly
Yeah.
using it like a coping mechanism. He's like self-medicating with alcohol. Like that's what it is.
He's using it like an open mic. So the alcohol, yes, but the therapy, he's like, great. This one's a banger. Hope you guys are ready. Like,
But it seems like every week they're like, oh, fuck, I cannot wait for the next chapter of After. Like,
fuck yes. And here's what's wild. So I saw Wildcat last week. That's a movie about Flannery O'Connor, and there's multiple scenes of her reading her short stories to people and them being just kind of like, we clap? Like, where they're like, they don't really get it, and they're like, why are we here? That's what I wanted, because that's what would really happen. Like, if I was at a 12-step meeting and someone was like, all right, and they like pulled out a notebook and were like, it was the best of times, it was the worst, I'd be like, no, we ain't doing this. Like, what is happening? And oh my God, I wrote this in all caps in my notes. In the third person, he's not getting up like, hi, my name is Hardin and I'm an alcoholic. This is what happened and I'm working through these parts of it. No. He's like, he was a dark man and she made him dark. And you're just like, I cannot.
He's a narcissist, Paige.
Yeah.
He is 100%. That's why he needs another therapist.
his therapist will also then need a therapist, but that's fine.
Oh, yes.
But he does write his quote journal like he's an author publishing his life. And it's so insane. It's truly insane.
So intensely crazy. Like, I can't. I'm sure people have done this. I'm sure they have. But seeing it in the movie, I'm just like, why does this movie think he is the pinnacle of romance? Because the movie even said, like, we have a love that was like unbreakable. And it's like, no,
No, it definitely broke.
Yeah, it broke a lot.
you met less than a year ago. He has a crippling addiction problem. And homegirl, you need to fucking run.
My question for him was, because he started writing this after their first kiss or whatever,
Yeah.
does he have any insight into how toxic he is and he gains it throughout the
No.
journal? Or is it just like, she saved me? I'm like, you ran off to like cheat on her twice. Is that in the book?
I think it's the latter, because even though he sometimes admits, he's like, I get it, you know, I did this or that, or he's like, I run away, but I always come back, right? And it's like, no, you don't, what are you talking about? And I do love, at one point, she's like, fine, you win, you always do, and leaves. And I was like, good girl, those should be the last words you ever utter. Drop bars and fucking go. Because yes, he's so fucking selfish that he makes everything about you. Never have a relationship problem. He has a problem, and then you compensate to make him feel better. So you don't even have a place in this relationship. You don't exist within it other than to keep him happy. And it's time to fucking go.
Sorry, I was going to try and make this a joke, but like, it's just too insane.
Yeah.
He tries to use her dad's ODing as a way to get her back because she is in a vulnerable
I was
like,
so
that
angry.
to me was so fucking funny that they were like, the movie wanted me to think like, oh, he now realizes he should take care of it. I was like, no, this is him like being terrible still.
It's him trying not to feel guilty.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is. And like, he doesn't stay until she feels better. He stays until he feels like he's done with his guilt. Oh no, he's a fucking villain. Again, if you're with someone, like, fucking leave.
Always.
Run away.
Yes.
Whatever you need to do, call your family. They love you, probably, maybe. If they don't, call a friend. But like, call somebody and get out. Like, run.
But maybe we should just go through this movie scene by scene.
Sure.
All 5 of them.
All 5 of them. So we get that weird intro again, and then we get Wattpad Studios again, and I was like, great. But then we got more production companies, and I was like, oh no.
This is a bad sign. Yeah.
Bad sign. Even though this was filmed at the same time as the other one, they must have seen the other one and were like, oof magoof. Who can we pay to distribute this? So we get a recap of the last couple movies, which makes it even funnier. Because they definitely have to cut around the actors they've replaced. Very fun. We then open on the wedding reception that we left, where they are playing We Are Family, which is hilariously tasteless in the context of what has happened in the movie. Because if you recall, we just saw his mother's infidelity before the wedding. We found out that Vance is his father and that he has cheated on his wife. It's like a whole thing. And they're just like, we are family. And I'm like, are we doing this? We're doing this. Okay.
But I mean, Paige, they are family. And that's
They
what
are.
this movie
Everyone's
is
family.
callously reminding you of.
Hey, the only one that would have been funnier is Cats in the Cradle. Like,
You don't play Cats in the Cradle
I
at
know,
the fucking
I know.
wedding
You would never play it
reception.
at a wedding, but that's why it would be even funnier.
That's their come out song.
Right, because you're like, really?
Up next, Slow Jam.
Cats in the Cradle and the Silver Spoon.
This is a weird choice, right? I don't know.
And Hardin's just over by the DJ booth, just like pounding whiskey. That's another thing. Mikey, back me up on this. He, in the next couple scenes, because he is consistently drinking throughout, multiple drinks.
Yeah.
Because essentially Stephen Moyer's character, his actual father, Vance, tries to like explain what happened. And in doing so, completely invalidates the stories that we got from the last movie. Because in the last movie, they were like, they all knew each other in college. His dad, his real dad, and his mom. In this movie, he's like, no, we're all from the same hometown. And your dad, like the guy you thought was your dad went to college, and your mom and I banged while he was away. And I was like, again, why is his dad not British then? Like, why is everyone British but that one guy?
I completely forgot about that until just now. So yes, no, that makes no sense.
It makes no sense. It would have made sense if they were friends in college, because maybe he just went to college over there and that's how they met or something. No, it's just whatever. So he has that whole conversation, and Hardin is basically just like, fuck you for all of this. And so he then tries to explain that, like, the guy that Hardin thinks is his dad,
Vance,
doesn't know.
Oh, sorry.
No. Vance is the real dad.
Yeah.
They finally give his dad, like, a first name, Ken. Ken didn't know that Hardin is likely Vance's son, but he's always suspected, and Vance thinks that that's why he started drinking. So to draw the map and follow the weird trail, in Hardin's mind, this means that it is his mother and Vance's fault for Ken's drinking problem, which led to the abuse in his home growing up, which it does display later that, because originally it was just like Ken was a drunk, but like nothing really happened until those people came and attacked us.
Right.
And then later we get a flashback of Ken being physically abusive.
Oh, that happens in this movie. Yeah.
Under the influence in this movie, which has never been introduced before.
But all that is clearly Hardin's mom's fault for cheating on him with Vance and then having a child with Vance. That's the way the movie positions it.
That's the way the movie positions it. And Vance being a coward for not saying it. And I'm like, first of all, even if you don't think it's right that he did not claim you as a kid, he's not psychic. I could fully understand people making a choice not to do that so that a kid could have a normal life. Like, I don't really blame his parents for any of this. And his dad has taken accountability, gotten sober, made different choices in his life, has tried to foster a relationship with Hardin. And honestly, even when his dad finds out, he has the best reaction because his dad is low-key one of the few people that is emotionally well-adjusted in this film series. Anyway, Hardin, at this point, who we already know is like 3 to 4 drinks deep, if we're counting from the last movie to this movie, picks up a full bottle of whiskey and basically Animal Houses it.
That's because the only villain in Hardin's life at this point is a cash bar.
Yeah.
And so he just steals this alcohol, although it probably is open bar. It probably is fine.
Yeah, no, it's probably open bar. I don't think they cared.
But he just runs out with it.
That was not my concern. My concern, and Mikey, I'm sure, will share this, because he finishes that bottle and then drinks half of another bottle while he's trying to burn down the house. He would be in the fucking hospital.
Well, he is an
alcoholic.
Yeah.
But even still, there is a limit to what your body will allow. And like, he would have to be a serious long-time alcoholic to successfully drink that much and not at least be very, very ill. But he drinks enough to kill a person. Like, easily kill a person.
I don't know how much he drank of that second bottle and how much he poured out onto the floor and like the couch, but
even if he only took a few shots from it, it's enough.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like,
he's already down one bottle.
I've never had alcohol, so I truly don't know.
I think it's really distracting. This is a distracting conversation from the fact that this man has decided to burn down his mother's house.
His childhood home, Mikey.
Yeah, his childhood home. We'll get there in a second. He has had at least 3 to 4 shots, a whole bottle, and then at least another 3 to 4 shots. So Ken Marino, on an episode of Party Down, does the whole bottle the way Hardin does in this movie, and they have to call an ambulance because, like, one person drinking that much, even with a tolerance, he would have been in a real messed up, like, he wouldn't have been able to walk, probably. Like, it's so much.
But I mean, he does decide to go burn down the house.
He does, but the fact that he's able to like stand.
As you do.
Because here's like a bottle of wine, totally different. Like the alcohol level, he's drinking stuff that's like 80 plus proof.
Whereas wine is way less.
Way less. Yeah. Anyway, so he bolts. She goes back to the house where he's sitting on the stoop and he has killed almost that entire bottle. And it does show that it's like nighttime. I think they're trying to make it look like time has passed. But that house is not far from the venue, as we have seen in the last couple movies. And I think that'd be the first place she would look.
I mean, probably.
Or maybe the second. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I do also love that she's like, we'll go back to the hotel. It's like, girl, you didn't have a hotel room. You stayed in the house. That's how you found people banging. But whatever. Like the movie forgets its own shit.
Which is very funny.
Yeah. But this is where we get the flashback of his dad tearing up the copy of Great Gatsby that Vance bought him and like fully shoving Hardin as a child
to the
forcefully.
Ground. Yeah, like
to the ground. Yeah, like
and sort of against the wall. Like it would have hurt. Like he was like 7.
It would have hurt. Yeah, no, that physical abuse.
Yeah,
100%.
Like it's shitty.
And that memory implying that his dad maybe did know about Vance or suspected, and that's why, and he was taking it out on Hardin. Anyway, Hardin kills that bottle, and Tess is like, "Hey, let's go back to the hotel." Which again, they did not have a hotel.
Hey, let's go get our luggage and go to a hotel if you're going to do this. Like that's what she should have been saying because their luggage is upstairs.
Yes, yeah. But it's not because they're gonna get it from the hotel later or whatever they do because it can't burn down.
Right.
So she's like, "Hey, let's go." But again, she's babysitting him, and he's like, "Leave." And I almost want to be like, "Girl, leave."
Yes.
Go back to the wedding. You should not have to constantly go out of your way to keep someone else happy. That is not your one job in life. So leave him.
Yeah.
Anyway, he walks into the house, grabs another bottle, and just tips it back, which means he gets another few shots in.
Sure.
Which again,
Yeah.
not good.
But the person who wrote this movie won't be able to drink for another 4 years. So they're just like making their best guesses. Let this 16-year-old write their like fantasy of what adult life is going to be like for them.
And again, depending on your body size and your tolerance, you could probably drink more than others. But like of the many alcoholics I have known in my time on this earth, very few of them could have done this. Anyway, he dumps the rest of the bottle on the couch and she's like, I'm sorry, are you about to burn this fucking house down? And he's like, yes. And at this point, we're 8 minutes into the movie. Not even 10 minutes into this movie.
No, it kicks off with arson.
Yeah, I was like, run, bitch, run. Like, he's burning the house down. Run. He has achieved Batman villain status. Run. Like, go.
It is wild.
But Vance shows up just in time right after he lights the couch, gets Tessa out of the house and is like, you take my car in a country that drives on the wrong side.
They have a full-ass conversation next to a couch that's on fire.
On fire. Yeah.
What? It's insane.
And this is the mom hasn't completely moved out. She's moved some stuff, but not all of it. In the house she's trying to sell. So this is going to be like a whole thing. Although, because Vance doesn't go to prison, by the way. He never ends up in prison.
Wait.
I think he and the mom settle.
Is arson not like a crime over there? It's just like you have to settle it up with the homeowner and then you're fine?
No.
Like, I'd imagine that it's a crime.
Yeah, it's not a civil, that would not be a civil matter. He would be arrested.
Well, no, here's the thing. That's if he did it intentionally, and it just says that he took the blame for it. We don't know what happened.
Oh, yeah, he was probably like, I got drunk and fell asleep.
Something, because I'm pretty sure that he probably just pays the mom off.
Okay.
And his lawyers handle it or something.
That actually does make sense. He owns a successful publishing company, I guess.
Right.
Which they go out of the way to show that that's not who published Hardin's book. And I thought that was funny.
I mean, that made sense because I bet they were like, fuck you. Like, fuck you and your book. Anyway, so he finally gets Hardin out of the house into the car where Hardin immediately passes out.
Yeah.
Finally, some realism because, like, you wouldn't be conscious after this shit.
It's that rage nap. It caught up with him.
It's that rage nap. It caught up with him. I've had a rough week.
Yeah.
Todd and I were talking earlier about sometimes you get so angry that your brain is just like, sleep.
Yeah.
Like, rage nap. Anyway, she drives away into the English countryside. And he wakes up and is just like, where are we? And she's just like, I don't know. I just kept driving. But what she is doing is she has stopped to get them breakfast at like a roadside thing, which I know, Todd, that you experienced some very bland food in the UK. But one of the best breakfast sandwiches of my entire life I had in the UK from a roadside thing. Yes.
Okay.
Same. Well, mine wasn't a roadside thing, but it was like a hole in the wall mom and pop cafe in Bath. They had the best breakfast. It was like the bacon was so salty. It was so good. Anyway, it's also not like American bacon. It's like it's more like ham. It's like ham, but it was so good.
Mine was one of the biggest English muffins I've ever seen.
Yeah,
almost the size of my face. Just scrambled eggs, but like soft scrambled, and then sharp cheddar. Like with like a nutty undertone, like religious experience eating that breakfast sandwich. If I could find it again, I would buy as many as they would let me.
And then like later that night, I paid $32 for the most bland pasta I've ever eaten. So like,
how you fuck up pasta?
You don't go to Italy, I guess. I don't know. It was just like, anyway.
Anyway, so yeah, so they stop and get probably the best breakfast sandwich alive.
Probably, yes.
And Hardin's just like, so what happened? Which, first of all, I don't even think he'd remember the fire, given how much he drank, but he seems to remember everything. And he's like, what about Vance? And she's like, he's okay. He took the blame for the fire. So it doesn't say that he like started it arson. It could be an accident, whatever. And Hardin just goes, it's okay. He has lawyers. So Hardin's just like, fine, good.
I know.
And I'm like, you suck. You suck so much. You're the worst. People are bending over backwards to try and help you, and you're just like, good. They've got lawyers. Fucking like entitled little shit. Like, oh,
He is the worst.
he's the worst.
Just the absolute worst.
Yeah.
Guys, if you calm down and wait for like 60 more minutes of runtime, he's about to do 5 minutes of therapy, and it's going to make all of this okay.
Ugh.
Clearly, that's a joke. Fuck this guy. He's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Tessa's even like, he's your dad. And he's like, as of yesterday. And I was like, he's clearly been looking out for you in various ways your whole life.
Now, I'd be pissed.
I was going to say that too. Like, I would be upset. I definitely wouldn't handle it the way he handled it.
Sure.
I would have done other terrible things that were my vice at the time. I get why he's upset. And I get why he said his life is a lie or whatever, which
Sure.
I don't know. That made me sad too, because like this doesn't really impact his life at all necessarily.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Like the only way his life could be a lie is if he wasn't being his like authentic self.
Sure.
Who his dad is didn't change just because he learned who it was.
Right.
Right.
But I would argue it's sort of the opposite of that lie, like living a lie. You're able to live in that truth, and I would be hurt and sad about it. But like he's looking at it all wrong.
Here's my thing. I don't even know that I'd be hurt and sad about it, because in my mind, it's like, no, the dude that raised me and has tried and turned his life around, like, that's still my dad.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so I didn't want to bring this up. That scene where his not real dad
Right.
says, "You're still my son. I'm still your dad." Like,
Yes.
I cried. Like, it made me like I could not help it. It was such a sweet scene.
I did not cry, but I feel like that's the one true emotional scene in this movie that is like grounded in reality.
Agreed. Yeah.
And the rest of this movie is nonsense.
And it's like the only time you see acting in the movie. Like
Yeah.
the dad does a good job delivering those lines. Like he's fucking feeling it. Anyway.
Well, and I feel like at this point, because he's only just now kind of getting along with his dad, I don't really understand what he has to be mad about. I guess it's just like cool new information, but this doesn't change anything for me. And I don't have to have a relationship with that new dad if I don't want to. You can, because you've known him your whole life. But like, it's not like your parents are together and he has broken them up. This is just additional information.
Right.
That doesn't really impact you all that much.
I would feel like I was robbed of the chance of knowing my actual dad growing up, but I would still look at the guy who raised me as my dad.
Yeah.
And I probably would. I mean, I realize that there's been like a lot of other traumatic shit between Vance and him.
Sure.
But like, if without all of that, I would want to get to know my biological dad, at that point in my life.
But here's the thing. We established that he stayed a family friend.
Yes, he
did
did.
know him as a kid.
Yeah.
So like, it's more just like, hey, here's some context.
Yeah,
it.
that's true. You're right.
Yeah. Like crazy. Like I can understand if Vance was a bad dude and then you find out that's your dad. I'd have weird conflicting emotions about that.
I don't think we should say Vance isn't a bad dude. Like, Vance is a bad dude.
Yeah, but on the scale of like...
he cheated on his fiance and mother of his soon-to-be new child.
Right.
With Hardin's mom, who he also got pregnant while she was with somebody else.
Sure.
I'm just saying, the guy's got a pattern he has not addressed.
Sure, but I would be like, I don't have to be that way.
Oh, yeah.
This has no bearing on who I am.
Yeah.
I can pass judgment on what's going on. But I mean, like, if I found out it's like, hey, turns out your dad was this guy that killed 40 people. I'd be like, oh no, do I have the gene? Like, that'd be a different conversation. It's just like, hey, your dad makes bad decisions. So,
Yeah.
like, okay. So what?
Duh.
So do I.
Duh.
So does everybody.
Everybody does sometimes. Anyway, meanwhile at the hotel, Elizabeth and Vance, because she is basically confirmed that Tessa has Hardin, they have the car, they're going to head back or whatever.
Yeah.
And Stephen Moyer, Vance, goes to like take her hand and she like snatches it away and he's like, do we want to talk about this? She's like, no, not right now. And I was like, that's fine. Set that boundary, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Like, go girl.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do. Because like, seriously, fuck these people. You were catching strays the whole last movie. You don't know these people shit.
Yeah, you just got to get out of there, honestly.
I can understand why she wants to stay in for
Sure.
the baby and for their life. And
Absolutely.
it was a one-time thing, not an ongoing thing that she knows of or whatever. They live on different continents. Like, I could see them working it out, and I think they maybe are going to try to. But like, I definitely don't feel like talking about it right now. I think
Right?
Elizabeth's like, I'm gonna go rage nap. You take care of the kid. Like,
Yeah.
bye.
It's wild.
I mean, they must like have an open relationship. Like, I don't know. Like, it seems crazy to me that she would be that okay with that soon after it happening. It was 7 hours ago.
Not that soon. I would still be mad timeline wise, but this is one that I could see myself talking it out and getting past over time.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially if I was pregnant with their kid.
Yeah. Different continents also helps.
Yeah, like this is not a person we're going to routinely see.
Wait, that's not his kid though, right? That's a different kid?
No, it's his kid.
That is his child in the
That's his
COO
kid.
of his company.
Yeah.
That he is also engaged to. Yes.
But I thought it was a kid before they got married.
They also have a kid from before, and then she is pregnant.
Okay, but the kid from before was from Vance's dead wife's kid, right?
Yes, yes.
Everyone in this movie has had everything bad happen to them that is possible.
All the time. But think about this from her point of view for a second. I mean, I understand being mad. I understand leaving if that's what you want to choose to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I also understand staying in that situation.
Yeah, for her, leaving upends her entire life. Probably got to leave her job. She's probably going to have to sue him for some stuff, given her stake in the company. She has this baby that she wanted, and we don't know how far along she is. So, like, that could alter her decision too. And then if you, like, compare the other side of, like, it was one time, she doesn't live close to us, we'll rarely see her. She was someone that he was with a long time ago. She's married to someone else. They share a kid. There's a weird relationship there, and we can set boundaries around it. And if he breaks those boundaries again, then yeah, fucking leave. But like for right now, maybe we just try to work this shit out, knowing that we will live continents away. So, like, that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it either way, honestly. And I don't think there's like, I don't know, it's like one of those things where there's no wrong decision. It's just you got to like find out what is the right decision for you, right?
Yeah. He better be buying her presents, though.
Agreed.
He better be getting that push present at least, and it better be nice. That's all I'm saying.
It's one of those things where, like, if it was me in this scenario, it's like, oh, I'm staying with you, but I'm going to make you wish I didn't. Like, I'm about to make you regret every second of what you did.
That sounds lovely.
It's not. I should probably leave this person if it was me, just given my level of pettiness. But I can understand staying. I get it.
Paige, I love you at Tom Petty levels of petty. That's my favorite level of Paige Petty.
That's where I'm living this week.
I love it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not my norm.
Paige,
this week
with pettiness, I won't back down. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Oh, boy.
I know.
I'm free falling into it. Like, let's just name other Tom Petty songs.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Because I'll be like, don't do me like that. You know what I'm saying?
Don't do me like that.
We're done with the ones that I know.
Yeah, same, actually.
That is also as deep as my Tom Petty knowledge goes. And that is a heartbreakers for me.
There you go. Yeah, I feel like there would be a whole hell of a lot of therapy and making up and you doing nice things for me until I forget how angry I am.
Maybe couples therapy, because like it's clear that both of you guys have something to work on. And I do love that, like, in this scenario, you're talking about it and like you're in the relationship,
right,
with Vance.
Yeah.
So because you're like, I'll have to leave. I have to leave it if we can't.
I can't.
It's just very funny to me that you're positioning it that way.
I would be in couples therapy like, here's what's up. I help him run the company. I take care of the kid. I'm pregnant. I was fine with him having a relationship with this other kid because apparently dude's got kids everywhere. And then on top of all that, I'm supportive and wonderful. And what does he do? Like, they'd be earning that fee.
I'd be like, have you guys thought about maybe not doing this anymore?
Yeah.
And she'd be like, yeah. Good thing I didn't sign a prenup. What do you want to do now?
I mean, but he's got like a Hardee's or Hardin's in the UK, but in the US, he's got a Carl's Jr. in Smith. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Anyway, we cut to her and Hardin. He's like, pull over, and they're in this like field. And I was like, this better not be what I think it's going to be. Unfortunately, it totally is. But he's like, we got to break up because I keep dragging you into my bullshit. And I was like, good, get back in the car and let's drive home. Like, you should leave.
But instead, Tessa's like, well, why don't we just fuck about it?
I hate it so much.
I don't hate car sex. Dig car sex. Into it. I hated that they got back together. You know what I'm saying?
I know you just found out your dad is not your dad and your other dad is your real dad and you hate all your dads, but like, what up?
This is not sexy at all or romantic. It is gross to me. This is gross because this is like, I don't want to talk about the hard things. Let's just bone about it. But then my favorite thing happened because I was on tattoo watch all episode and his tattoos not in this scene.
No.
They're just gone. They didn't put them on.
I don't remember seeing them all movie.
They were
They
there.
are on later, but not in this scene.
And I'll tell you why I remember they were there. I don't think this was like this in the other movies, but he has like that like weird shoulder tattoo that comes up onto his neck.
Yeah.
And it's got like a flower at the end.
Right.
And the petals of the flower perfectly hug a mole that exists on his neck.
Ew.
And it was weirding me out. At one point I wrote in my notes, I'm going to put googly eyes on that mole because it was like weirding me out.
I think in this scene, they must have only done what they thought they could see outside of his shirt
Sure.
because she opens his full shirt and he has two different tattoos that would have extended onto his bare chest and they're both gone. Just like completely gone.
I didn't even notice though, but yeah, like the sex scenes are so uninteresting. Even like the car sex scene, like it's so uninteresting.
It goes on for a full ass song. Like this is the fucking Room. It goes on for a full song. It is indefensible. It is terrible.
It really is like a Hallmark sex scene. They all are.
They all are, but I'm like, if you're gonna have a sex scene go on for like 3 whole minutes, you better give me more than just weird kissing in an uncomfortable position in the front seat of the car.
Oh yeah, there was no sex in this film.
No.
There was a lot of dry humping.
I think Hardin's kink is like he's like I only have sex with bras on.
I think maybe the actress who plays Tessa doesn't want to be nude, and that's fine. That's her prerogative. I got no problem.
There are ways to shoot it where it's still sexy, though.
Yes, there are ways to shoot these scenes in a way that doesn't reveal people, that is sexier. But also, can we start with not having sex scenes during like relationship ending conversations? Because I can't tell you how turned off I would be.
Hey, I think we should break up. Well, why don't we just fuck instead?
Why don't we just talk about it?
I would be so mad.
I think I would just be like, and maybe that's why we should break up, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm making the right choice.
yeah.
Yes. We like cut to them after and they're like cuddling in the front seat of the car. And he's like, what are you thinking about? And she's like, I want to stay like this forever. I was like, girl, you just dickmatized. You still need to run. He's still an arsonist. Like, at minimum. He is an arsonist at minimum, girl. Run away.
He's someone who's learned he can get away with arson, which I would
That's
argue is
even
worse
more dangerous.
in a pattern of escalating behavior, like murders after that, like right after that.
You need to check on his childhood pets. Like, this is how many head injuries has he had? It's not good.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, they drive back to the hotel and he's like, I'll get the bags, which are somehow miraculously in this car. Did we see them take them out of the house? No. Did we see them get them from the hotel?
Nope.
No. Is there a reason why they would be in Vance's car? Also no. Like,
They paid for the upgraded teleportation service from The Fly.
I guess. But they go upstairs. She goes to Vance and Kimberly's room. I don't know where he goes. He disappears for a section of this movie. We will get to it later. But this is also where we meet Smith again since the wedding reception, a full year older.
Yes.
Like a complete different actor.
Like before he was like, hey, Hardin. And now he's like, hey, Hardin.
Hey, Hardin.
Like it's like that. Like that's how quickly he's aged in 2 days.
It's crazy.
I'm actually your older brother.
You want to fuck off and get a pint? Like that's how old Smith is. They're still in London, right?
They are. The year he aged between the reception and the hotel, he spent it just learning Cockney rhyming slang. He's like, I'm in 5 Guy Ritchie movies, bruv.
He's aging like he's a chimney sweeper, like he works at like a fucking
In a factory?
yeah. I mine coal.
Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiroo. He's just like one of the kids from Oliver. Just fingerless gloves, and too much charisma.
My boss, Mr. Fagan, needs us.
Yeah.
So fucking funny.
That's why you don't see him the rest of this movie.
Yeah, he's just gone.
Yeah.
Because they stay in London for most of the rest of the movie.
I know, and he joins a pickpocket gang.
Yeah. Anyway, she and Kimberly hash it out because Kimberly is in that space where like your relationship is going so bad that you're like, I need to talk to someone who's going worse so that I feel better. And she literally tells Tessa this. She's like, this makes me feel better about my problems because like I may have been cheated on, but at least he didn't commit arson. Run.
Right?
Like, what are you doing? And Tessa is like, I want to make it work, but I got to stop trying to save him rather than myself. I was like, yes, therapy, girl. Like,
Yes.
you shouldn't be saving him over yourself. This is not how this works. This is bad.
It's very bad.
Anyway, as they're sitting there, the concierge brings up airline tickets for Europa Ways Airways.
I'm so glad you saw that. I literally rewound it and wrote it down because I couldn't believe it. Also, when she's like, I'm going to go get him. And then has like a dress up montage and then goes downstairs and gets in a car and then drives to his location. Like, what were those airline tickets for?
Yeah, well, we don't know when her flight is. It doesn't say when.
I guess my point is, why does the movie show us those airline tickets like it is him leaving? Like those were like
Not him
the
leaving,
receipts.
her leaving.
Sure, but she doesn't.
for her to go.
But she doesn't go anywhere. She gets in the car and like, but it's just
we don't know when the flight is.
I know that we don't need it in the movie. Like it doesn't have any bearing on anything at all in the movie. Is my point. It's insane that they even showed it to us.
Except that after the next scene happens, she flies home, which I assume was not the original plan, so she would have needed those tickets. I think this is her last ditch effort and would cancel the tickets, but we don't need them technically, I guess.
So in your mind, she ordered those tickets to be delivered.
No.
So who got her those tickets?
He did. He bought her the ticket for her to go home, where he's like, we're broken up, you go home.
Oh my God.
Because she doesn't have money, remember? She's super poor.
I know. This whole thing is insane. Oh my God. I hate it.
Because, like, he bought her the tickets to go. Now, what I would have assumed is just, like, she probably has a return ticket.
Right?
For, like, a few days later, just stay with Vance. But, like, I guess Vance and Kimberly are trying to work some shit out, too. And so maybe it's
they
like...
probably got a lot going on. Yeah.
It's time for you to go home. But, like, then Vance could have bought her a ticket. He's fucking rich. It literally felt like the extra, like, we're broken up, go home. Just
I know,
like,
right?
Go home, Tessa.
And then she's like, no, I'm going to go get him.
Ugh.
And then she does use the ticket. Like, she's like, fuck, I will then. Fine.
I will go home. So we cut to where he has ended up, which is basically a flop house.
Okay, but then the nicest flop house I've ever seen in my life.
It looks like the vampire lair from Lost Boys.
But if it was in downtown London, but that's still
Yes.
very accurate. It's just that the walls aren't caves. Everything else is the same.
Yep, exactly.
It's wild.
It's wild. We come back to the hotel and Elizabeth's like, are you okay? And Tessa comes out of the bathroom in, I think what she thinks is a winning back dress, but it's full Old Navy core. And I was like, this costuming really falling down on the job. Like, if you want a take me back, fuck everything dress, this is not it. This is a job interview dress. Like, there's nothing wrong with it for other things, but this is not a dress that you're going to wear to be like, you missing this?
Paige, this isn't a job interview dress. This is I'm about to go complain to a county board about 6 books I don't think should be in a library dress.
Yes!
And it definitely has parent-teacher conference vibes. Yeah.
And again, I say Old Navy core. Old Navy's fine. Like, wear what you're going to wear. That's fine.
Dress for the job you have. You know what I'm saying?
You know.
Yeah.
But, like, for what they're trying to display in this movie, no, you shouldn't have used Cold's Cash on this one. You should have gone somewhere different.
In all fairness, she's going to this flop house at what looks, based on the outside sunlight, is 11:15 a.m. And he is like 8 beers drinking, doing coke and shit. Like,
Yes.
all of the flop house scenes take place aggressively during the day,
During
which
the
I thought was
day.
like, I get that at a flop house, you might be doing drugs all day or whatever.
course, all
but
day,
like,
yeah.
that's not usually the vibe you get at a flop house in a movie, and I thought that was very funny.
No, normally they play this flop house like it's a frat party.
Yes.
Yes.
As opposed to a flop house. Because, like, I would expect in his state, he's going to go full self-destructive. I was thinking heroin den. Like,
Yes.
that's what I was going to picture. But no, they're just like, hey, Hardin's back. Call everybody. We're partying during the day. And you're just like, what is happening? Like, who are these people that we will never see again?
What I literally wrote in my notes when he was like, hey, James, I was like, who the fuck is James? And then 4 scenes later, I was like, I guess James doesn't matter.
No. So we cut back to the party, which is in full swing.
Yeah.
But did either of you notice, because I thought this was very funny, there is a table full of junk that is supposed to be like drug paraphernalia.
Drugs.
But clearly, the people making this movie don't know what drug paraphernalia is.
They're 16-page.
And so it's just like Cheetos, dishes, glasses. It's like not anything that would actually be on there's no like mirror with a straw, like nothing. And yet it is displayed as drugs.
Oh my God, they're doing so much drugs. Their mother hasn't cleaned up the living room yet. Like, that's the vibe of this flop house, guy.
Like, if you were to trust this flop house, they are hopped up on giggle sticks. Like, that's the level of drugs that it is.
Yes. Oh, dear God.
Doritos, dirty plates. I'm on drugs.
I learned it from watching you.
Mikey, this would be stuff that I would expect to see in your house, though. You're right.
Same.
Because it's not even that messy. It's like, I just ate lunch and didn't clean up the table messy.
And his phone's in the middle of it. And his phone rings because it's Tessa. She's trying to call him. And somebody else picks up and they're like, you coming to the party, bruv? And she's just like, yeah, remind me where it is. And they're like, 52 Warwick Street. And then they're like, only 10s out of 10s. You got friends? Like, the most teen boy
Paige,
question ever.
I need to time out here because we need to go back to the dress.
Let's talk
You
about it.
needed to pick a dress that said, I want to choose you over drugs.
Yes!
And what you're saying is this dress didn't do that for you, Mikey.
Not at all. That dress, like, if you're comparing that dress with drugs wins every time.
Yeah.
But then all he would have to say is, you're my drug, after doing a 3-minute montage of therapy, and she'd be back at the end.
I'm not going to say that dress is ugly, but I will say that if she tried to come at me with that dress, I would go use drugs.
So she parks in this drug-inducing dress. She goes into the party, and she meets Mark immediately, who is like, ooh, an American. All right. He's like, let's get you a drink. She's like, I'm actually just looking for... She spots Hardin across the room. There's already a girl draped over him. Like, he has wasted zero time.
Paige, how could she resist? He was a grown man wearing a leather jacket with no shirt underneath.
Like I said, this looks like the Lost Boys.
I was like, I see now why I shouldn't have done it.
Unless you have a real cool chest tattoo. Like you've got one in like the center or like the rockers across your stomach or like one on the chest that like peeks out a little bit.
I mean, I have a tattoo that you could see when I took my jacket off and started playing drums. That was like why I did it. Yeah. I wouldn't do
Wait,
it
why
like
you got the tattoo or why you got the jacket?
Why I got the jacket. The tattoo was a family thing.
Sure.
And because I'm cool or whatever.
No judgment. I want to get hella tattoos. I just don't have money.
CarMax is putting peace of mind back in car shopping by putting you in the driver's seat to find a ride that's right for you. Because at CarMax, we believe you shouldn't just settle for a car. You should love your car. That's why every car we sell is CarMax certified quality, so you can be sure with upfront pricing that's the same for every customer. So don't settle. Find love at first drive and start shopping now at CarMax.com. CarMax, the way car buying should be. Welcome to Fail Better, David Duchovny's new podcast with Lemonada Media. On Fail Better, David, who has experienced both low and high-profile failures throughout his life, explores the vast world of failure, how it holds us back, propels us forward, and ultimately shapes our lives. Each week he'll chat with guests like Ben Stiller, Bette Midler, and more about how our perceived failures have actually been our biggest catalysts for growth, revelation, and even healing. Through these conversations, he hopes listeners can learn how to embrace the opportunity of failure and fail better together. Fail Better is out now wherever you get your podcasts.
Anyway, so Tessa goes to leave because she's just like, oh, yeah, you literally left me less than an hour ago. And there's another girl already. And then she like thinks about it, turns back around and smashes the bottle he was drinking from and is like, what the hell is wrong with you? And she's like, I'm not letting you be a coward again. One chance, come with me or it's over forever. And I'm like, hold that boundary, girl, because you should never speak to this man again. Like, there's no reason. So she leaves. He does follow her out and he's like, what more do you need? We're broken up. Fucking go. Can't you see I don't want you anymore? Go. Like it's Harry and the Hendersons.
This is like 1 second from him throwing a rock at her until she got back in the car and drove away.
Leave, Yeller, go.
I would have put him down.
And so she does finally leave. But this is where she says, you win, you always do. And he just goes, you know better than anyone. And then just like punches a wall. And I was just like, girl.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hardin joining us in studio. I love your impression of it. It's my favorite. And honestly, like, it's better than my British impression. I can't do British for shit.
It's just rough Jason Statham.
Which is your favorite kind of Jason Statham?
Yeah, rough, not rough, whatever. Just as long as it's Jason Statham. She flies home. Finally, we get a location, Chiron, that says Washington State. Does it tell us what city? No.
It's almost like the producers of this film don't know what city would be in Washington State.
These producers are me, because at some point they were like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Let's just do what we want.
Yeah.
What's easiest? Let's go.
We'll use whatever sets we have. So she goes back to the apartment, or rather Landon drives her back to the apartment. Now, this is where she has all the memories, and suddenly it's the old apartment and whatever. But Mikey, you might be able to confirm this for me. The smell would be overwhelming.
Yes.
In an apartment.
Depends how long he's been dead. So, like, let's talk about it. Let's unpack, huh?
Yeah, let's unpack it, because she does find her father overdosed in the apartment.
Yeah.
What time of the year is it?
It appears to be like summer-ish.
Like spring.
Summerish is bad if you're going to find a body.
because it's hot.
Oh, because it's right before graduation, so we do know that it's summer.
But they do show us the thermostat was at 72 degrees.
Okay, so that helps.
That's not cold enough to
That's not cold enough.
It's
to live.
not.
Yeah.
But, so, like, if it's been like 12 to 24 hours, you're going to be okay.
So, like, if it was that day.
It's going to be just like a little tang.
But we also don't know, because we know that he talked to Hardin at least 2 days ago. Because it was the same day that they arrived in London, but it was before, it was like when they first got there.
Yeah.
So it's before the infidelity happened.
Yeah.
It's before the wedding, and we have now been an extra day since then. So it is within 2 days.
That would be bad. So, like, you know, you release all your bowels and stuff when you die. So, like, that's like
right.
That's not so that you have that smell, which, you know, pets, that's the kind of smell it is. But then if you go 3 or 4 days, you're going to get more smell there. And if it's past that, it's going to be not good.
Okay, so maybe she wouldn't have noticed it immediately. That was my first thought, as I was like, how would you not? But, like, okay, so it's possible.
Generally, it gets so bad where, like, you open the front door, you're like, someone has died in this house.
Anyway, so she is understandably upset. Now, but this is another case of them not fully understanding drugs.
Yeah.
Because he is tied off. There is a spoon, no syringe.
He didn't OD, guys. What happened was he tied off his arm, and then that made him pass out, and all the blood went into his arm and couldn't get back to his heart, so he died. Like, that is this movie's understanding of everything. It's like all a little bit wrong.
I would guess, is this PG-13?
No, this is R. They're all R.
This one seemed PG-13.
They all seem PG-13.
But it is R. I don't know why it's R. I mean, other than Hardin being awful and maybe swearing, I guess.
He says fuck a few times. That's
that's one of the dumbest reasons to give something an R rating. But yeah, that's why the MPA is.
But I feel like they intentionally removed the hardcore drug paraphernalia.
Me too.
I mean, and the spoon is far in the background, so unless you're looking for it, you don't see it.
Don't you have to untie the tube for it to go into your bloodstream successfully? I don't know. I've never done heroin. I don't know.
I don't understand how heroin got that spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. I don't understand it.
Branding.
And I do think ultimately she is responsible for him ODing because that song.
No.
I'm not saying Julia Andrews was involved, but she is responsible.
I'm not saying she's not involved.
I know. Mary Poppins can just show up anywhere and murder you.
Post Mary Poppins, the drug use of the planet got a lot worse. I mean, this is an undisputed fact.
Yeah. You see kids on playgrounds cooking up spoonfuls of sugar and injecting them, Paige.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would burn. Sugar is like napalm. It'll stick to you, and it's hot. It's terrible. Anyway, so they load the body up. Landon basically comes and finds her, takes her home, because Landon is also, up until a certain point, the coolest part of this movie, because he's one of the only rational people. But anyway, we cut back to London, where Hardin wakes up on the couch at the flop house, because his phone has been ringing off the hook because Landon has been calling him.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that's like, nah, why bother? Why bother calling him? Like, he gone. We don't need to talk to him.
Yeah.
But we finally get Mira Sorvino finally having lines and being in this movie.
Was that Mira Sorvino?
It is Mira Sorvino instead of Selma Blair, yes.
Oh, yeah. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because Selma Blair was replaced by her in the last movie, right?
Yes.
Right, but only for one tiny scene.
Right.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
So, of course, Hardin's drinking again. Landon keeps calling. And one of the girls at the flap house answers the phone and is like, it's for you, it's Landon. And he's like, I don't want to talk to you. And Landon is like, hey, asshole, this is what the fuck happened. Her dad died in the apartment. She found him. It's fucked up. And you won't even answer the phone. But again, why did we call him?
I think that people think he should know. Like, this is a weird story. I had a friend who was in an accident and he had broken his back. He ended up being fine, can walk and all that stuff. But he and his ex-wife were recently divorced. And he asked me to call her to let her know.
That makes more sense to me.
Yeah,
if you've been
maybe.
married to someone and, insurance and whatever. This is just a boyfriend she has known less than 6 months.
I know.
Who is awful and toxic and is a continent away.
I know. I definitely think people would reach out. I think people would be like, Hardin's going to want to know this. Like people who are maybe more in Hardin's camp, the information would get back to you.
Yeah.
Like I knew when my ex who cheated on me in San Diego, like broke up with Manny and then started dating the guy I think she's still with, like it just gets back to you.
Yeah.
I got some information about an ex where she almost died or whatever, and like they were like, you probably want to know this, and I was like, oh, thank you for telling me about this person I haven't talked to in 3 years or whatever. It was just like,
who hurt me greatly. That's great.
It is weird. Yeah.
Because that's my thing is like, I understand it getting back to him through Vance or whoever or whatever. I don't understand them calling in the moment to be like, this is somehow your fault.
Right?
Like, it's not. And by being a dick, he has given up the right to have information about her life, in my opinion.
Oh, I fully agree. I just also see how that information could get back to him.
Yeah.
I don't think he should do what he does. I understand why he does, because he's very manipulative and sees that she is now in a very vulnerable state. So he then closes the distance between them to try and manipulate her in her vulnerable state into being back with him.
Yeah, because she says she doesn't want to talk to him on the phone. So he just immediately flies there.
Yeah.
And like shows up and she literally says, I don't want you here. I don't want you here. And Landon says, do you want him here? And she says, no. And at that point, I'm like, because Landon is like, if she says she doesn't want you here and you don't leave, call the cops. And Hardin's like, fucking call them. I was like, call him.
You should.
He needs to be removed from the house. Or call someone else who you think can remove him from whatever it is. He needs to not be there. She said she doesn't want him there. It's her fucking house. Get him the fuck out. And so she kind of like runs to the greenhouse where he finds her. And she still is like, I don't want you here.
Yeah.
I want to be alone. And he still won't leave her alone. I hated it. I hated every second of it.
This is what, and I've never seen the movie Fear, but this is what I feel like the vibe in that movie is.
Yeah.
Is Hardin when he like won't give her the space she keeps asking for.
Yeah, it's bad. And then Mira Sorvino sits down with him and is like, hey, I haven't always treated you fairly. And he's a fucking dick to her.
I love that he's like, hold on one second, Tessa's mom. I know you hate me, but like, I don't even give a fuck. Like, those are the words he says to her.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
It's a little wild.
Yeah.
He's awful. And then he's like, I love her. So like, I'll do what's best. No, he won't. Like, because she also is like, if that's true, if you love her and you'll do what's best, then you should leave.
Yeah.
Because you're preventing her from finding someone who will treat her better than you. So fucking leave. And so he then like goes and breaks up with her again. Like he talks in circles around this shit so many times. And then she, at this point, is like, you don't love me enough to fight for me. You give up every time. First of all, accurate. That is true to what has happened.
Yeah. At this point, I was like happy for Tessa. I was like, okay, yeah, set a boundary.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm trying really hard. I was like, in what way and when? Because it has not been on the screen.
I've been trying really hard for 3 days. Why don't you let me off the hook for being terrible?
Yes. Yeah, it's been so long.
He's such a terrible person.
This is where she says, I'm sorry I couldn't fix you. And I damn near screamed into the computer I was watching this on because I was like, not your job. It is not your job to fix a person.
But Paige, then he responds with how Han Solo would respond to that, and he would say, me too.
Yeah.
Like it was her fucking fault.
As if it was her fucking fault. I was so mad.
It's so insane.
I was so mad.
It's the worst. It's not ever happily after.
I wish he got encased in carbonite. Like it was so infuriating.
If she would have reached out and slapped him in that moment, I would have been like, good.
That was a test. Get out.
Violence isn't the answer, but it is satisfying.
Yes, exactly. That'd have been great.
We cut to her dad's funeral that Hardin has clearly secretly paid for. I don't know why she has questions about who paid for it. Girl, you know who paid for it. Come on now.
You definitely know who paid for it. Having been through the burial of my father, you definitely know.
Wait, who paid for this?
Hardin.
Hardin paid for my father's burial. Yeah.
Yeah. He was trying to get Todd back.
And listen, guys, it worked for a time. I do think, and he even references this in his own book. He says it's like a Darcyan move to do this.
Yes.
And he is 1000% not Darcy.
No,
he is Mr. Wickham for sure.
Yeah,
He's not great, huh?
He's not great. But then we watch a whole damn funeral for a character who had 3 scenes total.
It's so sad, Paige. How dare you? I barely knew this man.
Barely knew.
And she barely knew this man, which would be a very complex thing, I think, because that's her dad still. And she did also barely know him. That would be terrible. Anyway, I get why she's super sad. I also get why there were no extras at this.
There are. This is the European haircuts. They're sitting behind him. Right. There's like 3 of them. And she does this whole speech. And again, I get it. In real life, this would happen. You would go to the funeral, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the movie, I'm like, why in the movie do we need this? They hung out once. And mostly it was her breaking up a bar fight he started. Like, what do you mean all the great memories you had?
Okay. At this point in the movie, I have to talk about my favorite character who has 0 lines. Can I show you who that is?
Yes.
I'm going to send this to your message just because it won't let me show you here. So he is the guy who is like officiating the funeral. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
Do you see him there in the background as she's giving the eulogy speech?
Yeah.
He has the biggest cartoon mustache I've ever seen in my life.
Do you think they did that as a joke?
I don't know. He has a wig on his upper lip. It is so big.
So fake.
I took 3 photos of it in increasingly bigger sizes.
There's no way that this is not like a funny joke that they were all laughing at during the funeral scene.
No.
They have to be on the joke, right? That this is a terrible series?
Maybe, but probably not. Probably not the Bulgarian team who are just working.
He looks like Wilhelm Kaiser the fucking 8th or whatever of Germany back in World War I. Like, that is the mustache he's rocking.
But also, he's barely in it, which means that, like, either he just had that mustache and that's who they hired, or someone put it on him. Why?
It's insane. Anyway, I had to point it out because I was like, that's such a choice that like someone made that choice to put him in frame.
Oh my God. So we cut to like the reception after the funeral at her mom's house, and she's in the greenhouse, but he's also there. He has another weird apology tour speech, but like, again, this movie's just 40 awful conversations strung together. And in this one, he says that her dad was, quote, an idiot for choosing drugs over a relationship with you. And I was like, addiction is complicated, as you are also an addict. So like, maybe let's be a little kinder to like, I'm sorry that he could not work through the stuff to have a relationship. Like, but him just be like, he's a fucking idiot for like risking it. And you're just like, what the fuck? Like, this is so weirdly offensive. And then at this point, I noticed that there was an hour left in the film.
It's insane.
Like, what?
I wept a little bit in this scene, but it was because there's so much runtime left.
Oh.
I mean, thank God for my phone, or I wouldn't have made it through it.
Right?
That's you most episodes, though, too.
Bruce, it's hard to pay attention and not move around.
That's fair.
ADHD is an issue in all of our lives. So I when I say that, I'm not like making fun of you. My phone's in my hand, and I'm posting a story to Instagram about the guy's
mustache man.
So like, we suffer from the same disease, and I love you for it.
If you could tweet out the creators about that, I would love an answer.
I didn't want information. Anyway, he's trying to get an Uber, but he can't because he has a shitty Uber rating. Because of course he does, because he's the worst and he's probably terrible to Uber drivers.
You know he is.
And he's probably thrown up in a bunch. So he's like, hey, come back with me to Ken's, who's his dad, who's not his dad. And she's like, no, we're still broken up and I have a doctor's appointment in Seattle tomorrow. And he's like, oh, well, I'll come with you. And she's like, no. And I'm like, bro, what don't you understand? She has said no in every possible way. And then she's just like, I don't want anything from you anymore. And he's like, I don't believe you. And I'm like, fuck you. Fuck, kick him in the nuts. Like, I just hate him so much.
Yeah, he's the worst.
He's the worst. So she finally gets him to go. She's talking to Elizabeth and is like, yeah, I'm thinking of moving to New York with Landon out of nowhere. Now, here's the thing. I understand the move, especially because her job and everything is so tied to Hardin that, like, to truly get a clean break, she has to, like, go.
Yes.
But I also understand what Elizabeth is saying here, where she's just like, hey, you have like a lucrative job and school and stuff here.
Oh, she literally misses a semester of school because she can't get into NYU.
Yeah.
She is just like half a freshman at this point. She's done one semester, it seems like, right?
One semester.
Which
yeah.
she was going to transfer anyway, because wasn't she going to go to a school in
She did.
Seattle? Oh, she did transfer, yeah.
She did transfer.
Did she just drop out halfway through that semester to move?
Yes.
That's insane.
But here's the other thing. Typically, you can't even transfer as a freshman. Usually, you have to wait until you're a sophomore or a junior to transfer. I mean, at least in the US with the way our schools work. That's not always the case, but like typically that you transfer at like the halfway point or at least at the end of the year. But like, yeah, it's bonkers.
That's so crazy.
But I also am like, you know, Vance is Hardin's dad. So like it would be hard to get space. Also, Seattle is only 30 minutes away, as we established later. Although it's really funny later when we find out that Nora, Landon's girlfriend, is 50 minutes away on the train, and Hardin's like, that's practically long distance.
I did think that was very funny, and it has to be a reference to that. It has to be, right? They has to have known that that's so dumb.
That's so dumb.
Because even Landon's like, well, I mean, I'm going to be going right by there every day for school. Like, he's like,
yeah.
It's very easy for me to see her every day if we so chose.
Yes. But then we cut to Hardin does go and talk to his dad. And his dad, in this scene, finds out that he is not Hardin's biological father. Takes it incredibly well.
Yeah, he does. I think he always knew, and the way he reacts to it is like, I think a really good performance, because that comes through. He was like, it wasn't like he was shocked by it, but it was like, okay, I have confirmation now of something I've always sort of thought. How do we move forward? And he does. I think he was like prepared for this. And that's why he is hurt by it and like takes a beat, but is able to deliver a very convincing, like, listen, you're still my son. I love you very much. I'm still your dad, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the scene I literally like teared up. I was like, fuck, I hate that this movie got me here.
Yeah.
But you know, like, I lost my dad, and like, so I have like things around that, clearly.
I would say if there's any place in this movie to emotionally connect with it, this is the only place.
Yeah.
Like, this is
100%.
It is what it is. They hug it out. We cut to the luxurious gynecologist office from the last movie that has like a whole seating area and everything. And thankfully, in this movie, they gave regular reasons where they were like, hey, it seems like you will probably have trouble conceiving, but even if you do, that you will struggle to carry to term. And they don't like, do you remember in the last one, they were just like, it's something with your cervix. And you're
I fucking forgot about that from the last movie.
Your hole is closed. Nothing's
my
allowed
God.
in. It's impossible to fix.
But what they tell her in this scene is much more in line with like, you know, a more systemic problem of, you know, like a PCOS or like a severe endometriosis or something that would not only prevent getting pregnant, but staying pregnant potentially, like depending on stuff. But they stay vague enough that you don't have questions. But here's this is the fourth movie.
Yes.
And aside from when we found out briefly in the last movie that she might not be able to have children, she has never once expressed a desire to have children. It's never something they talked about. It's never something that she's like, I just can't wait to be a mom. She doesn't bring it up. She doesn't talk about it in the context of the book. Nothing. She has never once mentioned it. That doesn't mean she doesn't want to. But the movie displays this as this was her life goal and now she can't do it. but we have seen no reflection of that previous to now.
I mean, that's fair. Like, we don't see that at all. They're also really young. I don't think that it's weird that, like, what Hardin sort of says when she brings it up to him, like, I want kids, but not now. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
But, like, the fact that it becomes all they talk about, like, immediately is nuts.
Yes.
Although I do think if you're wanting to, like, plan a future with somebody and you want kids, and, like, that's something that you need to talk about and talk through. But, like, it's all that they can talk about for the rest of this. And Hardin is only seeing it from his point of view.
I hate the way they position this as a failing for her.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's terrible.
I hate
You
it.
should.
Because, like, you know, first of all, it just happens. Some people can't. And, like, that's a reality. And, like, there are other options for things they could do. But also, it's like, she literally never talked about it before this moment. I could understand if she was having a conflicting moment of like, this is never something I even thought about, but now that I realize it might not be possible, I am thinking about it. That's cool. We don't get that conversation. What we get is that Hardin calls her and she ignores it, and then he just shows up because he doesn't fucking respect boundaries. And she has been drinking, and he kind of puts her to bed, and she's like, I don't want a baby right now. And he's like, okay. And then the next morning they wake up, and he's like, hey, if you're pregnant, it's okay. Like, we'll figure it out, you know, if you're not or whatever. And then she basically is like, yeah, I can't get pregnant. But while they're having like that night and this conversation, Vance and Kim are nowhere to be found. They were there earlier, then they're gone. And then it's like later that they got back from London.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Anyway, because she's in their house.
I know.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's weird. But so they have this conversation, and instead of being like, I'm so sorry, that must have been jarring to hear, but like, if that's something you want to do, there are options to do it, and I support you in whatever you want to do. That's all he had to say.
Yeah.
That is all he had to fucking say. But instead, he does this thing where he's like, I'll never have tiny me's. I'll never do. And it's like, you're a fucking disgusting mess. Get the fuck away from her. Like, ugh.
No, I didn't want kids, but now that you're saying you can't, it kind of makes me feel like you're a bitch.
Now I'm going to make you feel bad about it. Yeah.
But you 100% knows this sets up them reuniting and having a child in the next film.
And I hate it because here's the thing. It's like,
It's a miracle.
if you love someone and you want to have a kid with them,
Set them free.
no,
You know the old adage.
Yeah.
no.
That's what we're doing with Mikey.
That's very...
Kidnap a child with them if you love them.
Or just talk about adoption or other things that you can do.
Yeah.
But like the way this movie treats it is very gross. And I hate it. It's the worst.
It is.
And they've never talked about this that we've seen on screen. But she says, you don't want kids, which means at some point they talked about it and we just didn't see it. And he says, I didn't, but now it feels like it was taken away from me, as if she has hurt him somehow. I'm just like, ugh. They're not even together. And he's like, I know you dreamed of this. I was like, was this her dream? She never mentioned it.
If it was a dream, it was one she never shared with us, the audience.
Never.
So
It's in his book. You have to read it. It says at the end.
that she's a real bitch for not being able to have kids or whatever. Like, he's fucking terrible.
I mean, I will say that, like, they do babysit Smith that one time. And, like,
Sure.
maybe that's something she wanted. But, like, at no point was it like, I'm so excited for this part of my life. You know, like, it's real gross.
But he's a baby the whole time. Like, she doesn't need a child. She's dating one.
Yes.
And you don't own her, Hardin. Shut the fuck up. Like, I just hated him so much.
He's the fucking worst. But so he also at this point is like, I didn't actually hook up with that girl or whatever. And so they like briefly get back together. And I'm like, this is gross.
I sort of saw this movie as they broke up at the beginning, and then because of her dad's death, they sort of start spending time together, and then the rest of the movie is, or up to this point, is like, are they gonna make the decision to be a couple again?
Right.
And they actually don't, which I thought was fucking great that they didn't.
Right.
Because she was like, I don't want this. We're about to get there, right?
We're about to get there, yeah.
But like, that gets ruined 10 minutes after that happens, but...
Because there's a goodbye barbecue for Landon this weekend. But here's my favorite part. This was not made by an American crew, so they had no idea what our barbecue was like. And so it looks like they're eating French fries. just around the table.
Love those famous slow roasted French fries over a grill, Paige.
I will say that a French fry barbecue sounds pretty great.
I would love it, yeah.
Love it.
It's just not one commonly you see.
Yeah.
Because normally it's things you can cook on a grill and not like in a fryer or, in an oven.
There is no grill displayed. There's no catering. And they're like, it's his favorite barbecue or whatever. And she's like, gotta love that sauce. What is it on? We never see the table. It's a full mystery.
Gotta love that sauce. It's in his giant mustache in the background.
It's that bubble sauce.
It's like, what is this? And this is also Nora. Like, I guess we met Nora in the last movie. Did we? I don't remember, but she's suddenly a character that we're supposed to care about.
That's who Landon is pursuing in New York, right?
Right, but like, have we met her before?
I think we did briefly in the last movie because these were filmed at the same time, but like she doesn't become an important character until she starts dating one of the tertiary characters in this series.
That's my biggest complaint in this series is that I am baseline so confused of what's going on in the sequels at all times.
Yeah.
That the overall plot I get, like his dad's not his dad and stuff, but they change actors, and I've had this complaint since the second one.
Of course.
They change actors and imply things without going over it in a way that I understand, where I'm just like, I have no fucking clue what's happened besides Hardin and Tessa.
And during this barbecue, everyone browbeats Hardin into walking for graduation. We don't know why he wasn't going to walk. I don't know why anyone cares, but like they get him to do it. Whatever, fine.
Yeah. I think that was just showing that like Tessa is a good influence on him. Because me too, Paige. I hated it too. But that's what the movie is sort of showing in that moment. And it's gross.
It's real gross. Anyway, after dinner, she asks Hardin to come outside with her. And she's like, hey, I made a decision and I didn't talk to you about it first, which by the way, it's her life, girl, pop off.
Yeah.
But she's like, we need to talk about it. I think we need time apart, and specifically a lot of time apart and very apart. So I want to move to New York with Landon. And she does say, I feel like we fight more than we get along. And instead of actually talking through our problems, we have sex. I was like, true. Thank you.
That's 100% their cycle. Yes.
And he's like, what's wrong with that? Sex is awesome. And I was like, you don't get it. And she just says, I can't keep going around in circles like this. I was like, neither can we, the audience. Like, why are we still talking about this?
Right.
But so he flips out and basically starts a physical fight with Landon.
He grabs his face and is about to punch it. And then Landon's like, oh, you're going to hit me, you big baby? And so he doesn't.
And Landon shoves him back.
Yes. Yeah.
Like in self-defense. Good for Landon.
Yeah.
And Landon is just like, look, it wasn't my call. It's her life. It's her call. I'm just here cleaning up your shit as usual.
This is when I wrote, you don't fucking own her, Hardin, because he's yelling at her like, how could you do this to me? Like, all of that shitty shit. I fucking hated it.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
He walks outside and screams. And in my notes, I just have, Padme, no!
Landon back there just ooba.
Ooba, ooba.
With those wiffle ball hands.
Wiffle ball hands.
No, I just loved in episode 1, because I may have seen it recently again, where they're like, we've bought you out of slavery. Come back to the Jedi Temple. You can call me master.
Yeah.
Traded one master for another.
There you go.
Anakin, he's a tragic villain.
Anakin, I have the high ground.
And that's when Ewan McGregor turned Anakin into Legolas.
Oh,
come on. That was a great joke, Mikey. Come on.
That's good. That is a good. Legolas is a good one.
Sometimes. It's like the third time this episode.
I was just going to say, I would burn myself with lava to smash early 2000s Natalie Portman and turn against everything I love and hold dear. That's all I'm saying. It's the one part of the films that work for me.
Yeah.
I love that in all of the Star Wars stories that have been told, Anakin is the one that you like really connect with. As someone who like wants to be a Vader so bad.
I connect with Han a little bit.
Of course it would be Anakin's story you connect with.
No, I'm just saying, like, he had a rough childhood, man. Like, in a trauma-informed perspective.
Bro.
He had a lot of aces. You know what I'm saying?
I know. As someone who had a lot, and you had a lot too, I get it.
Not as much as him.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, I get that, yeah. You didn't have to kill a bunch of sand people in retaliation for your trauma.
And younglings.
The younglings had it coming. No. Mikey has a whole thing about it.
Let's talk about this kid. One, his dad left, or he has no dad.
He has no dad. He was birthed of midi-chlorians, virgin birth. Yes.
The best lie his mother Mary ever told.
So that's one on the aces score. Then you got you're a child slave. That's got to be like 4 or 5.
Sure. Yeah.
And then your mom's also enslaved. And then like,
And his mom dies too.
yeah.
And dies in a way that like he thought he could save her, but he couldn't. It's,
Well, no, yeah. This is just the first movie. And then like, his hobby is almost getting murdered, like for money.
For his master's money.
Now that's what I call trauma. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So when like Qui-Gon took him off planet, they'd be like, the first thing we're going to do is get you into like a lot of wraparound support services to like really make sure you're okay. Before giving him cosmic power, maybe you should have checked on his mental well-being.
That's fair.
It is wild to me that the Jedi are what they claim to be, do not at all believe in mental health. Like, this is what makes me think that, like, Scientology may be right.
It's not just, it's not what
is Jediism if not late-stage Scientology, Paige?
Look, most religions don't like mental health. And there's a baseline. You have to defeat that stigma because there's a lot of pray it away. There's a lot of, like, use the Force to get rid of your depression kind of stuff going on.
Exactly. You know what doesn't work? Using the Force to get rid of your depression.
So really, if you look at it, you could have saw it coming of like, you know, like, yeah, he found out one person he really liked and then murdered 40 people to be with them. And then all of a sudden, you know, he's Space Hitler or whatever. And
he only really likes her because she was friendly to him as a child and maybe groomed him a bit.
We could talk about that. That may actually be another ace over here.
Just saying.
That was a wild choice for the story. They should have both been children. I don't understand this at all for the first movie.
Anyway, back to this movie. She's like, I'm going to New York. Please don't follow me. And he's like, I won't promise that. And she's like, I need you to not stalk me. Please give me time. And he's like, how long? And she's like, I don't know. I need to figure my shit out. We cut to New York. She moves in with Landon. The movie displays this by giving her some of the worst bangs imaginable. They're like an inch too short. And she's not styling them right.
Natalie was in and out while I was watching this movie because she was, let's just say it, not interested. When she walked in and Tessa had bangs, she goes, uh-oh. Something happened. And I wrote that down because I thought that shit was so funny. And I did not know that bangs were like a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Something has happened in your life that has led you to bangs.
Yes.
I did not know that was a thing. I thought it was just to protect against 5 heads.
No. And a good hairstylist will talk you out of them if they do not suit your face.
I have a girl at work and she like had a bad breakup and got bangs. And she's like, what do you guys think? And all the girls were like, it's really great. And then they all look at me and I was like, it's really great.
Yeah, you're not supposed to tell somebody their bangs are awful because immediately they're going to hate them and try to grow them back out. It's a cycle. And then by the time they've grown them back out, they will probably have found somebody new.
What's the equivalent for guys? Just like gym selfies?
Yes. Or a new tattoo.
Oh, Mikey, I can't wait to see your thirst traps next month.
You should get bangs.
I need a few months. I'm going to need a few months of work before I can thirst trap. Or I'll just be like, here's my calf muscle.
I was going to say, you got some pretty good cakes, like back, like your legs. Yeah.
But yeah.
From the back, I look really good, which is why all the women walk away from me.
I was actually going to say, you leaving the podcast has been one of the saddest things that has happened recently, but watching you walk away has been amazing.
Oh, no.
Again, I reserved a right to just decide this was a huge mistake at some point in the next few years.
We won't stop you. We won't stop you from doing that.
Mikey, I know it is.
Yeah. But we're going to let you do your shit.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
I feel the wilds of the world calling me. I've got to go out.
Go.
Do your thing.
Yeah, do your thing, baby.
Anyway, she gets bangs. I recently asked my hairstylist if I should get bangs because I wanted a more 60s, 70s look. And she was just like, they sell clip-ons. And I was like, thanks, Roxy.
Clip-on bangs?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you can get them to match your hair.
Y'all send me some. I'm going to get some actual bangs.
Yeah. Clip-on bangs and a halo. We'll set you right up. Anyway, she moves into the apartment and does one of the funniest things. I was laughing at it so hard. At no point have we seen her have a pet or any sort of opinions about animals. And yet she hangs 4 different framed photos of different cats in this apartment.
Here's Janice's cat, Stephanie's cat, and Mark's cat, and Amy's cat. I love my friend's cats. It's really weird, Paige. Like, why would you have...
It's really
Pictures of cats that aren't your cat.
Right, and I would have assumed maybe one was her cat, right? Like if we had seen a cat.
No.
But no, we've never seen a cat.
I'm concerned about everyone's mental health in this film at all times.
I printed out these Shutterstock photos of cats, and I would like them framed, please.
If I went into one of y'all's house post-breakup and you guys are like, these are other people's animals I framed for my living room, I'd be like, Paige, we need to get him more help. Like, this is bad. Like, this is really bad.
Get the net.
Go get the cargo net out of my car.
That is probably what I would do. Like, because if Natalie, I don't know, wised up and broke up with me, and I lost all my animals overnight, I would leave up the pictures of our animals we have around the house.
That's different. Those were your animals at one point in time.
And I love those babies.
No, I'm talking about stranger animals.
It is weirder if it's animals you've never owned. Like, I have pictures of a dog I had in San Diego with my ex.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're not up around my house.
Or she just liked the frames and kept the stock photos in them. That's an equally funny possibility.
Oh, these wood frames are so great. I guess she's just putting up photos of like old people and like graduation photos, like all those like
I don't know who this family is.
stock images you find in frames.
More mental red flags.
Yeah. But what I really wanted was names of the cats as she was saying, like, this is Mr. Whiffles. This is Faux Pas, because he's got faux pas.
No. It would be stuff that's weirder. It's like, this is your real dad, Hardin. The cat.
Because he was kind of a pussy.
Kind of a P word, Paige.
But I mean, like, I thought this movie was so realistic of like, look at this toxic relationship. You are now living with a waiter with pictures of other people's cats with you. And then like, this man ruined you. You were such a sweet girl that first movie 5 months ago.
Yeah.
In 5 months,
ago.
she dropped out of school and moved across the country. This man is a menace.
Yeah.
He destroyed this girl.
Yeah, because, like, here's the thing. She had a high-powered publishing job.
Yes, Paige, if she had kept that job, she would have been a millionaire by 30.
Yes, or at least well off enough to, like, buy a house or whatever. She could have had Trevor, okay? She could have had Trevor.
But he had to go start that underground fight club ring called The Circle.
So terrible.
Don't hate it. Anyway, we cut to Hardin at group therapy, and people are going around sharing, and they're like, and that's when I knew I hit my rock bottom. And then Landon's like, I haven't read this before. And he pulls out a full-ass manuscript, and it's in the third person, where he's just like, he knew the moment she walked in, and I was like, get the fuck out, stop it. But then we cut back to the apartment where they're on like a double date with somebody. And I was like, who the fuck is that other guy? And I was like, oh, it's Robert. But they never address him as Robert. They never talk about it. The only clue we have is that Robert said that he wanted to go to med school. And later that guy is in Scrubs. That's our only clue. Hardin sees her and Robert on Instagram on his laptop in public.
It's infuriating that anyone goes to Instagram on a laptop ever.
We cut to 5 months later. And Hardin is coming to stay with them. And here's where I have some beef with Landon. Because no. Like, she lives in your house. You know this is toxic. It is fucked up to let Hardin stay there. And he's like, yeah, because like he's sober now and there's like a mini bar at the hotel. And I'm like, first of all, we're going to find out that he's not sober. But secondly, she is recovering here. This is her safe space where she tried to get away from him. He should not darken the door of that apartment unless she says so.
I was going to say.
And him making him stay there, fucked up.
Yeah, the only thing that makes this okay is if she's consulted and says yes, right?
And it's really not like his character either, which
It's
I thought.
not. It's completely out of character.
Yeah. Until they walk home together and it cuts to him upstairs sleeping, I was like, oh, I guess he's just going to go back to his hotel.
No, he's staying there.
I know. I was like, what? Because I didn't think Landon would ever let him stay there with them.
Right.
It's crazy.
Well, and not only that, so we find out that she's working doubles so she doesn't have to be home and see Hardin. So she's like actively trying to avoid him. So I feel like even if she said yes to this, it was kind of under duress.
Yes.
On top of that, he then brings Hardin to her work. So now Hardin knows where she works and can follow her home every day. I'm like, Landon is now the enemy. Like, he is not protecting her at all. It is disgusting.
But again, Paige, we've seen Hardin do 5 minutes of therapy.
Don't care.
So, like, he's fixed or whatever.
Don't care. I in my notes, I'm just like, Landon's a bad friend for this, at minimum.
Yeah.
She walks home with Hardin. This is where we find out that she's waiting to get into NYU and she's working, but actually likes her job. And I guess Vance is opening another publishing place in New York, but like we don't know much about it. And she kind of wants to stay out of it.
That's where she'll probably end up in the next movie. But I did like that she was like, everything is so fucked up that I just wanted to get away from everything.
Yeah.
I did sort of love that she like is out, quote, on her own in New York, although the apartment that they can afford on a waitress's salary.
Insane.
And I don't know what Landon does, but like they don't make enough money for that $1 million apartment.
Landon's in school, but remember that Landon's parents are rich. And
Sure.
so I think maybe Landon's parents are paying for that apartment and letting her live there.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense.
But so she gives a bag of food to an unhoused man because it reminds her of her dad. And then like Hardin will try to manipulate this later by also giving the guy stuff to make her feel like he also cares later.
Yeah.
But we get back to the apartment and he's having nightmares on the couch and she goes to calm him. And I'm like, girl, it's not your job. Let him have that nightmare. Let him ride it out because this is manipulative bullshit. Because then they end up sleeping together on the couch. And like, homegirl should have put some earplugs in and let him work on his shit. It's not your problem.
Yeah, I agree completely.
But yeah, so she goes to work again. He follows her home again. And then they're making dinner in the apartment. And he does say that he's like, yeah, I still have the odd beer or glass of wine, but I'm never drinking a whole bottle of whiskey again. And I was like, no.
I mean, that's an addict saying, I still fuck around with it some, but I try and do better.
Well, and here's the thing. I know that there are substance, specifically alcohol programs that allow for moderation. But I also think that there are some people that can't do moderation. And I feel like Hardin has proved to be one of those people.
Yeah, the goal is to not let the vice ruin your life. There's tons of people who can drink socially and it's not a problem in their life. When it becomes a problem, that's when you need to like figure out a way that like you can sustainably get it to not a problem level. And a lot of people, that's abstinence altogether. Some people aren't that.
Yeah, we could break it down from like addiction versus unhealthy coping skill.
Well, because there's also a chemical component here.
Yes.
So, but like this movie, like if it's an unhealthy coping skill and he's like, look, I don't drink like that anymore. I don't drink an emotional, I don't drink to feel better, things like that. But like this movie 100% posits and shows us that like you have substance abuse all over both of the families of these people. And like it is a huge theme throughout all the stories. So I think it's wild that he's like, I'm not sober.
Yeah. And that moments ago we were assured that he was, and he's not.
Because if it was just like a college kid who's like drank a lot when he was emotional, like, like I get it.
Within recovery too, they will talk about starting new relationships or making drastic changes in your relationships while you're early in recovery.
They say for a year. You shouldn't date for a year. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you are like already with somebody. And even then, if you're already with somebody, they're like, hey, that means y'all are involved in this too. So like, are you going to also stop? Like, is it a dry house? Like, what are you doing, basically?
Yeah.
So the fact that, he's just stalking her again and not sober, I'm just like, so he hasn't changed at all.
He just wrote a book that exploited her story. So, like, you're forgiven or whatever.
Oh, I think he's manipulating her even now in this scene where she's clearly, like, crossing a physical boundary because she is obviously turned on and wants to have sex with him. And he's like, I can't do that with you.
Paige, what he actually says is, we can't do this until you're ready to have me in your life.
Yes.
It's like, gross. It's like such a shit. It's like, it's weird. I hate it.
And here's the thing. I'm not saying they should have sex in this moment. I'm saying the conversation should be, hey, I feel like our relationship is still a little confusing. We still have shit to work out. And I think that will make things worse because it's a pattern we used to have. That's a valid conversation.
Yeah.
In this moment, he is absolutely withholding it from her to try and influence her later.
Yeah.
Because later on, he will continue to cross that touch barrier and push that boundary until she says yes.
Paige, okay, I've just figured out what the vibe is here. I feel like you are putting Hardin on trial for being a bad dude.
Yeah.
Everyone here already agrees with
know.
you. Like,
I know.
you're
Yeah, of
overselling
course.
it. Like, he's just the worst.
Mainly because I feel like there are people who watch these and think they are romantic, and I need you to know it's fucking not.
No, I think we do make it clear it's not romantic.
I know you know.
Yeah.
I know you two know. This is for the person listening to this going, but he's changed. Girl, he hasn't. Run.
Also, out there, I want you to know that I'm looking for my Tessa.
Mikey's gonna need some chances, ladies.
I want to destroy you in 5 months.
Oh, no.
See you in 5 months, Mikey.
The next morning, Landon and Nora wake up and they're like, oh my God, they're together. I was like, this was obvious. What is happening? Like, we all knew.
Yeah, I was like, they've sort of been together the entire time. Like,
yeah, what? But so an indeterminate amount of time passes because this movie is bad about time. And so Landon is staying over at Nora's, which means they're alone in the house. So she comes home from work and he starts with a foot massage, then becomes a back massage and initiates, but doesn't clarify based on whatever happened the night before. And at this point, I realized there was 15 minutes left in the movie and fuck all has happened, but like there's still 15 minutes for them to fuck it up. So they have sex. The next morning, he's like, great. So we had sex. So we're back together again.
Yeah.
Like you agreed. So we're back together. And she's like, okay, no, girl, no. He leaves. She finds his manuscript, which is basically their story. She reads the entire thing. My favorite is, as she's reading it, she's stirring and cooking. She clearly burns whatever she's cooking. And then we see her order takeout because she fucked up whatever she was cooking and she's still reading it. That made me laugh really hard.
This is the only scene I really connected to.
This is the only scene in the movie I felt seen by.
Yeah.
It was really funny to me.
That day when I made fajitas, I took 4 bites and I was like, I'm just going to order fajitas.
Yeah, like, clearly I shouldn't do this again. I'm going to go ahead and call the experts in Uber Eats.
Yep. Thank you. But as she's reading, they also cover the pregnancy thing in the book too. And it's worse than when he talked to her about it.
And that's when he realized she could never give him a child and he would always be disappointed in her. And like, it's like terrible. Yeah.
And the whole time, I'm like, this book would fucking suck. Like, this is going to be a terrible book.
It's a real Mr. Wickham move.
Yeah. And so he comes home and she's like, you never showed me what you were writing. Real Jughead move. But you were writing about us the whole time.
You were hopped up on them giggle sticks.
You were on that JJ, on that jingle jangle. But he's like, I did it to vent. This is a wake up call. And I like read it during group therapy and people were like, you gotta publish this shit, which is so crazy.
Hey, Hardin, don't be mad at me, but I brought my editor down to listen to your next chapter of your soon-to-be world-renowned successful hit book, After. That's also the movie series you're starring in.
By the way, in 5 months.
Yes.
In 5 months. Impossible.
But in this 5 months, a lot has happened.
A lot.
Tessa's dad has died. They've broken up and gotten back together 40 times.
Yes.
He found out his dad wasn't his dad. His mom was sleeping with someone else the night before she got married.
No. This is 5 months after that, which means like 5 months after he started reading the book in group.
Oh, yeah. No, that kind of shit happens fast, Paige.
Yeah, like,
you know how quickly you can go from being just like a writer on Wattpad to a hit movie script writer?
It happened with this author. Yeah.
I know. It's insane.
No, she spent years on this shit.
Really?
Yes, she did.
Don't say that.
I believe she spent minutes on it.
She spent years. But like, this is my thing. I was like, as a writer, like I'm in the process of revisions and stuff on a pilot. And that's a process that takes months, maybe even years. And like the fact that in 5 months, no revisions, and it just immediately went to print and there was a bidding war on the book. And he's like, that's why I'm in town. And he's like, I accidentally wrote a book and shopped it. He's like, I hated myself and I had to deal with that. And I was like, go fuck yourself.
So
like,
I loved that Tessa says you accidentally wrote a book like that, because that is like what I think Anna Todd said to her parents when they were like, what is Wattpad? Why are you rich all of a sudden? She was like, okay, so a year ago I accidentally wrote a book. And listen, Anna Todd, congrats. You wrote a banger that people love and you're rich now. Congrats.
But he's like, it's my journey after I met you. And thankfully, Tessa is like, I think that journey's over. And I was like, yes, bitch.
Which is insane because that means she's gonna kill him. Because
I hope so.
Every bit of the rest of of his life is his journey after he met her. Like, you don't have to continue being a part of someone's life for them to exist, sociopath.
I mean, but here's where suddenly the next movie takes a wild left turn and she becomes an assassin for hire.
Here for
and
it.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Here for it.
She starts Landon's Angels, and it's her, Nora, and a third lady.
Elizabeth. It's Elizabeth.
Is she the girl from the Beautiful Disaster series? Because it should be her.
It should be her, actually. No, that's Vance's fiance, Elizabeth.
I'll take that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. So he signs a deal to publish it. I love that they have this like knockdown drag out fight and he's like, okay, bye. I'm off to make millions.
And he does.
100% what I would do, though. I'd be like, still going to make that money, though.
Still gonna get it.
Yeah, if we're not going to be together, I'm definitely not going to stop publishing what's going to make me rich.
Yeah.
And I get what she's saying, like, you should not make me part of your story. That is part. I mean, it's his story too now for the last 5 months.
I guess.
Man, the Lion, the Witch, and the audacity of not even changing her fucking name. Like, it is her name. That's the part that I thought was shitty. If it was like, oh, this is a story I wrote, it's fiction.
I still hate it.
It's autobiography.
Sure, I don't love it, but it's like he pretty much published the burn book he wrote.
Yes.
How pissed would your exes be if you wrote like the novel of your relationship with them?
Oh
on
my God.
your perspective.
Very upset. But that's on them though, right? Like
See, now you're Hardin. Welcome. That's all it took. That question was all it took. Let's say you wrote it to feel better, but then they were like, we're going to give you $1 million to publish it.
Oh, you mean what would happen if I accidentally wrote a book, Mikey?
Uh-huh.
I would definitely take that money.
I feel like there's not enough interesting stuff for me to write about.
Paige, we get it. You had healthy relationships. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Way to be lucky in love, Paige.
Well, and I'm like, I'd probably text him to be like, heads up. like, we are friendly enough.
You know how I know you have healthy relationships, Paige? You're not blocked or been blocked by your exes.
No. Well, I think I have his phone number blocked, but we're still Instagram friends, and occasionally we share restaurant recommendations.
Well, that's a weird combination, but okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it's just because, like, there was overlap where he and I were not exclusive, and I met Jake. And he was like, hey, what's up? And I was like, not us, bro. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, the princess is now in another castle.
Yeah. And I think for a while he was expecting me to change my mind. And so I blocked his number at that point. But then things were fine. And
yeah, because everyone in that was an adult, unlike in this movie where everyone's 12.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so it wouldn't be a very interesting book. I mean, Todd, I think yours would be fun, but she would have to, like, Manny has to be a mannequin.
Oh, you mean when we do Mannequin 2?
Yeah.
I think Mannequin 2 is a female mannequin.
It is. I'm just saying, if Todd wrote about his ex, I think it should be magical realism where his ex cheats on him with a male mannequin named Manny. Mikey, yours would be a fucked up book.
See, I bet I could write a book about my ex and probably make it real fucked up and then be true. And then maybe I could make some money.
Mikey, I feel like you could write a systems therapy textbook on your ex. And that would make a lot of money, I think.
Mikey, I cannot wait for your novel called You're Lucky This Is an Airport.
Yeah. You're lucky this is
What you guys could not see was Paige blowing on her ring finger and shaking it off like it was burning, I guess.
That whole interaction makes me think I should have purposely fucked up their life a little bit more.
No, you were right to do what you did.
You still have a chance. You can write a book.
What are the things you're leaving the podcast to get, Mikey?
Revenge! I've been putting too much time into healthy hobbies. I really need to dive into revenge.
You should get a cape and a giant mustache. But yeah, we cut back to him in group therapy being like, thank you, all of you, for getting my book published.
Yes. I think he's actually thanking them for the therapy. Like, I do think that the movie wants us to take the 5 minutes of therapy it shows us seriously, and that he actually is starting to do some self-reflection, but we don't necessarily see that at any point in this movie. Right. He's always very selfish.
And this is where I wrote in my notes, this is that meme of the selfish person being told it's okay to be selfish.
Yep.
Because, like, this is what it is. We cut to her having a New Year's party. And at this point, I was like, okay, so we're maybe total a year and a half from their first.
True, because it was
they met in September.
At the beginning of school.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Okay.
Right. a total a year and a half because this is the second New Year's party we've seen in these 4 movies. But he gets super famous for the book. He goes to London on his book tour. We cut to her walking home from work past like a whole display of those books. I would be so fucking mad. And he's doing like a reading that night.
The most realistic part about this movie is that your toxic S is going to be successful and it's going to be shoved in your face everywhere.
I think I'm like, here's the thing, for as not toxic as me and my ex were, I often wonder if occasionally he's like, that fucking bitch got so podcast famous afterward. Like, I don't know.
But at least when he sees photos of you, unlike the picture of Hardin here, you don't look like an avant-garde choreographer from 1973.
I don't.
Like, that is the vibe of that photo. It's like black and white, and he's like looking at, like, it's weird.
It's very weird.
He's like, as a 19-year-old, I've collected a lot of wisdom. Let me share it with you.
It does feel like he wants to look like he's like weathered and 40, but like he's 21.
Well, at this point, he's probably at least 22, if not 23.
Oh, so yeah, he definitely is a wise, learned old man.
He's not. I'm just,
He should have like those, what are those things that are on your elbows on your suits?
Oh, the leather elbow patches that denote a scholar?
Yeah, he like smokes a pipe, wears one of those jackets with those elbow pads on it. That's his vibe.
That is his vibe.
He's gonna grow a big bushy mustache and stand in the background of someone's funeral. Like, that's his vibe.
We cut to she's having a date at home with Robert, who reveals that he is eating a plant-based diet, and I think that's for us to not like him.
I do love that he's like, try this. And she tries it and she goes, yeah, it's not great. Thank you. Like,
I am not normally a tofu person, but when I was in Japan, they know how to do.
I fuck with the foo in Japan.
Yeah, that I feel like that was her real problem. Anyway, so she doesn't go to a gallery opening with him because she's going to go to Hardin's reading. And I was like, no, don't do it, girl. It's like that meme on TikTok where it's like, I'm not going to do it. Don't do it, girl. No, I'm not going to do it. I did it. Like, she shows up.
Yeah.
And realizes that there's a new girl that's just blander Tessa. And she's like, and leaves, but he sees her leave. And that's the movie.
So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what did you guys think about After Ever Happy? I hate having to say it. It's a terrible title. What did you guys think about the movie?
Gross.
Worst movie of the series.
Yes.
Very bad movie.
Yeah, real not good.
Todd?
I thought it was insane. The first 10 minutes are the craziest 10 minutes in any of the movies.
Yes,
because it immediately
absolutely.
goes to arson. And the way it like has the same 2 conversations for the next 60 minutes after the arson to only give us like 5-minute montage of therapy for us to think Hardin's not a terrible dude at the end of this movie. Like,
yes.
When she walks away, I'm like, good. I hope they never see each other again. And then it says to be continued. And I'm like, are we ever going to finish this if Mikey doesn't come back to guest? Like, why would we do this?
Yeah, I'll come back to do the last one on this.
Okay.
The only way the next one works out is if they reconnect like 10 years later.
Exactly. Yes.
It's got to be
Right.
5 months ain't going to fucking do it.
Yeah, I think with a lot of time, they might be able to figure it out. But they need to like have long-term relationships with other people and go to therapy themselves.
What are your predictions of how this series ends? Is the next one the last one?
There's no way the series doesn't end with them getting married and possibly having a child because of the way this is all set up.
I think it ends the most toxic way.
Murder, suicide?
No. Not like the Notebook. Not like the Notebook. I think they run into each other randomly. They fuck in a car, probably a car.
Yeah.
She gets pregnant, and then that's when they get married. After she gets pregnant, because it's a miracle, and they'll say miracle.
After the miracle.
Something like that.
Gross. I hate it, but that's probably what it is. So, Paige, do you have some fun facts for us?
No, there really aren't any.
Well, don't hit us with those fun facts.
Pretty
There's
much no fun facts.
facts.
The only fun facts are about 2 different people that passed away,
Oh, well, that sucks.
which is unfortunate. So Chad Rosen, who was the first assistant director on the first 4 After movies, passed away at 52 years old in the latter half of 2021. His family chose not to publicize the details of his death, but everyone had positive things to say about him. Additionally, now I do believe that Perdomo is in After Everything, which is the next movie. He plays Landon, But he passed away shortly after the next movie in a terrible
Really?
motorcycle accident.
Oh my
which
God.
is a super bummer because he's amazing on Sabrina and a bunch of other stuff. He was like really great. Like, this is the least cool thing he did.
Yeah.
All of his other roles are amazing. And so I think he did do the next one, but unfortunately passed away right after.
Well, that sucks. Well, thank you for those sad facts. Maybe we should just do a little box office. So what do you think the production budget was for After Ever Happy? It came out in 2022.
$5 million.
Okay.
I'm going to say 3 million.
I'm so happy to report to you that the budget for this movie was $14 million.
No!
This movie did come out in 2022, so now that $14 million would be almost $15 million, $14.9 million, because inflation's been insane. This movie did premiere in the box office domestically on September 7th. Let me come back so I can see your faces when I say it was only in the theaters for 3 days. September 7th, September 8th, and September 9th. How much do you think it made in its opening and closing weekend?
$700,000.
Okay, Mikey, what do you think?
$150,000.
Okay, it got close to $1 million. It was $989,000. But as we talked about with Beautiful Disaster, these movies, they're made for foreign markets. Like, they just are.
Yeah.
So it made an additional $11.4 million internationally for a total of $12.4 million worldwide. So it did not make its budget. But I mean, it probably, I don't know, I would imagine Netflix paid a bunch of money for these movies, so it may have made money if you in factor like streaming rights in, but it did not make a money. It did not make a money in the theaters.
It didn't make the money.
But that's your box office. But Mikey, do you want to hit us with that romance scale?
Yeah, scale 1 to 4, how romantic we found the film today. I will go ahead and say all of us say 1. Do we have to go through it?
No,
we do
1,
not.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's our romance scale.
I'm also going to give it a 1 or a 0 on the roar scale, because just like
Yeah.
all the After movies, none of it is sexy at all. But yeah. So this week, Mikey, you made us watch After Ever Happy. It's my turn next week, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So I asked on Instagram in one of my stories what I should make you guys watch, and a lot of people suggested a movie that we mentioned on the Knocked Up episode, and that is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. So I'm going to have us do Forgetting Sarah Marshall for my pick, which is a movie I remember fondly, but I haven't seen since around the time it came out, so it may not hold up because this is around the time Knocked Up came out.
It's my favorite romantic comedy.
Oh,
I
is
do
it?
really like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and I've always liked Sarah Marshall.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So your homework for next week is to watch Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and like me, hope it holds up. So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
Oh, no.
Well, while you're looking one up, let me bring up one of our Spotify comments that came in on our most recent Beautiful Disaster episode. And this one is going to be from Laura. And she said, my wrestling name would be Princess Valium because I'd rather be sleeping. Maybe I could do a sleepover and then lay down across them with a pillow for the pin. I don't know. Mike Lindell could be my tag team partner.
But he's dead.
He died. Oh, no, wait, Paige. He's not dead. He just looks bad. That's what it is.
Bad.
That shit was so funny. Laura, thank you so much for that comment. Mikey, whose review are you going to read this week?
Raptor Myers.
Well, what does Raptor Myers have to say?
Mikey is daddy, period. Exclamation point. I don't really watch rom-coms unless my boyfriend puts one on, but listening to y'all go over the movie every week is such a delight. Paige is very informative. Todd is Todd awesome. And Mikey is just so fine. Jesus.
Mikey is just so fine.
I hope to
Lay
one
you
day see his
down.
magical vitamin water picture because I always got BDE from Mikey. Keep it up, y'all. Love you guys. Look forward to you every week. Start.
The thing about Mikey's BDE is it's bully dick energy because he is a bully that is a dick and that is his energy.
Yeah, I feel like his dick is bullying every pair of pants that it's trapped
Into submission.
in.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
Well, Raptor Meyer, thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And if you want to have me read your Spotify comment or Mikey read your review, get that review in. And we'll have Mikey read it for you in his last episode. So, yeah, guys, if you like this power throuple that we have here on this podcast, make sure to check out our other podcast, The Horror Virgin. And that is the only other podcast that Mikey and I are on. But Paige gets around, and she is on 2 other podcasts. Black Card Rehab, and Cult Podcast. So guys, definitely check out those because they're amazing. If you want to follow us on social, we are at Romancing the Pod Show.
Yes.
On Instagram, and we are at something else on Twitter who I just have never taken the time to learn
It's just Romancing Pod Show because they have a character limit and it's show SHO like Showtime.
So guys, check that out as well. And if you want to follow us all individually, Paige is at Rampage Wesley everywhere, including TikTok, except for Twitter, where she is at Paige Wesley. Mikey is at MRandolph24, and I am at Todd J. Awesome everywhere. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm Todd.
And you complete us.
To completion.
I don't care what your mom thinks about me.
Girl.
I
bet Mikey could get Tessa pregnant, nerd.
Oh, shit.